The expectations for Texas now that they're in the SEC. Perloff, it's sky high. Welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. We got a lot of college football. We got a lot of NFL on the plate today. So much to do. Good morning.
All right, good morning. Let's just dive right into it because this one 19-year-old kid is causing havoc behind the scenes at the Maggie and Perloff show.
Yeah. Okay. Explain it to people.
Okay. So Arch Manning, we all know, the most famous recruit, I mean, probably ever, because everyone says, oh, it's like Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning or Trevor Lawrence, but none of those guys came in with the ballyhoo that Arch Manning did because his last name is Manning. And yet he's going to sit for the second straight year behind Quinn Ewers at Texas. To me, this is not a big deal. The kid's still 19. He has plenty of time to be the Texas quarterback. But I think you and many, many, many other people are saying, what the heck is going on here?
Well, I advocated for him to transfer. So I thought, go to USC. Yes. He'll play with Lincoln Riley. He'll win the Heisman. But I respect the fact that he wanted to stay at Texas. And I respect the fact that he's not in this super uber rush to get to the NFL, right? He'll sit behind Quinn Ewers for 2 years. And to be honest, I don't know if he anticipated it was going to be 2 years, because if somehow Texas, completes a pass and Ewers completes a pass to what's the guy's name who just got drafted by
Xavier Worthy?
Thank you. Xavier Worthy in the college football playoff semifinal, Quinn Ewers is probably gone to the NFL, and we're not even talking about this. So Quinn Ewers deciding to come back to Texas definitely may have thrown a little bit of a wrench into the ultimate plan, but I respect Arch Manning for sticking it out.
Well, one thing, Ewers wanted nothing to do with last year's quarterback class, I think. Like, he would have been...
six guys in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, so you say that, but in reality it was not the ideal time for Ewers to go pro. But
okay,
anyway.
But if he had gone to the national championship game, though, I bet he's going pro.
I don't know.
He might be in the mix with those other guys.
It might be a third-round pick last year, first-round pick this year. Anyway, regardless, he's back.
Okay.
The reality is he's back.
He's back, and, essentially one thing that Steve Sarkisian said yesterday, and he said it off mic, so it's not like super great quality, so I'll just paraphrase it for you. He said, we're going to need both quarterbacks to get through the season. By saying we're going to need Quinn Ewers and we're going to need Arch Manning to get through the season. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to say. Yes, it might be true because Quinn Ewers has this injury history. He even missed games last year, but Arch Manning was third on the depth chart last year. But Texas is going to have their hands full. And not just with the move to the SEC, even though they have this great roster, I think to say you're going to need both of them, even if it's true, Perloff, I don't really remember a coach really involving the backup quarterback. Like, that's not a normal thing. You don't have Kalen DeBoer talking about Jalen Milroe's backup. You don't have Kirby Smart talking about Carson Beck's backup. It's just generally not what you do for a coach. And then add on top of it, it's Arch Manning. I felt I didn't understand. Is it throwing a little red meat to the fan base? Say, hey, we haven't forgot about Arch. He's still here. He's still involved. Or was it setting up what could be, and in my opinion, what may be unavoidable this year, which is some type of, I don't want to say quarterback controversy, but I will bet you anything this will become a story. Yeah. And I think that the Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers, I'm not sure to what extent, I'm not saying it's going to be antagonistic. I think this will be a story at some point this year.
Well,
who to start?
You'll make it a story.
No, this is what I'm talking about. I think that Quinn Ewers let's just go on his history. He misses games.
Right.
It's unfortunate for him.
Yeah. I think that's what secretly Sark was thinking.
Probably. That's what I took from it. It's like Quinn has this injury history.
Everyone said, Ewers will definitely bang up his shoulder at some point. Arch will get in there.
Okay. So what happens if Arch comes in? Now he's number 2 on the depth chart, and he plays well. I think that is going to set up a really interesting dynamic for Sark. And listen, he has a lot of cachet already with Texas. Right. They went to the college football playoff. He's got like a lot of equity where I think the fan base will trust him. But if Arch plays really well, if Quinn Ewers misses games, which he has every year, how do you put Ewers back in if Arch is playing well? I think Arch then has the job. And so that's what I'm talking about. It's going to become a story.
Right. all that could happen, but that's happened many, many times, right? Like there's always a veteran quarterback, and when these superstar recruits come in, I'm thinking of when Trevor Lawrence as a freshman took over for Kelly Bryant at Clemson. Obviously, most famously, I think Tua taking over for Jalen Hurts, or when Caleb Williams came in and threw 5 touchdowns in a game. It was like, oh, bye-bye, Spencer Rattler. We'll see you later. Like this is how college football works. I just think it's all amplified because of that last name, Manning. So I think he had to talk about it. You said he threw red meat to the media or to the crowd about he has to address this all the time because the kid's name is Manning. If he was the same recruit and his name was Arch Smith, then nobody would be asking about him. So he's doing as best he can, and I think he's doing a good job of sort of keeping the noise down here. He basically said there's nothing to see here. They're good friends. They get along great. So I think he did a good job of like the best job possible of not making this a 5-alarm fire.
Well, right now. Okay, here is Sark yesterday at the SEC Media Days talking about getting Arch and the Manning family to buy in to the plan of him being a backup.
We've been fortunate to coach some pretty good quarterbacks. We've been fortunate to do it for kind of some decades now. We've been fortunate to have some pretty good quarterback rooms, and I think the Manning family is pretty well aware of that. And I think they trained Arch to try to put himself in the best position to try to play in the best conference in America, and then ultimately put himself in the best position to further his career playing in the National Football League.
Right. Okay, that's all well and good. And I think Arch deserves credit here for not transferring. And no disrespect to people who do transfer, but he stuck it out because he wants to be a Texas quarterback. But again, if the scenario I'm setting up happens, and Arch gets in the game in a meaningful moment and plays well and then goes back to the bench, I don't know if the Manning family is going to be as cool with that, because, and maybe they will, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do think there is a competitive aspect to every football player, and especially these uncles, and especially, Cooper. I don't know I can't imagine Peyton or Eli would actually call Sark, but I'm talking about the dad and Cooper. Maybe they would.
Maybe, yeah. But Cooper, fun-loving Cooper?
I'd love to see how fun-loving he is. If Arch comes in for Quinn, plays well, say he plays really well, and they win a game, and then it's like, all right, man, back to second string. Like, what?
Well, I mean, is this a problem? Okay, that's not a problem. I mean, if Arch comes in and kicks butt, then I think, fine, move on to Arch. Like, this just seems like normal stuff to me. It doesn't seem like there's a problem necessarily.
Well, there's not yet. There's not yet. I'm just foreshadowing and maybe seeing something down the line.
Even if that happens, the scenario you just painted doesn't seem like a huge problem necessarily.
For Quinn Ewers, it might be. See, that's the thing.
Yeah, but that happens in college football. Like I just said, Spencer Rattler was a very similar situation. I think it was Spencer Rattler who was there when Caleb Williams, the phenom, came in. And he transferred. It was fine.
Okay, but Quinn's not going to do that. He's going to the NFL after this. So the question, it's not the same dynamic. It's not even the same one with Tua and Jalen Hurts. Jalen was able to transfer, built himself back up first of all, stayed at Alabama, which I think people gave him a lot of credit for, and was graciously a backup. Then transferred to Oklahoma, got with Lincoln Riley, and turned himself into, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. So good for him. But he had time. Quinn's already been to Ohio State, now to Texas. He's going to go, really? Are we going to another college here?
I mean, you're so sure that Quinn Ewers is going to go pro? I mean, he feels like he has an SMU in his future.
That's not going the right way.
I actually thought, I thought last year, when Arch signed, he might go to, honestly, he feels like SMU because we've seen, isn't that how it goes with the big Texas recruits? Like, remember, there's always a guy named Shane Buechele who was at Texas and then with SMU, Cam Rising was at Texas and then he went, RG3 was, actually, he never went to Texas, but it feels like Texas has every quarterback in their room and then they go off to some other Texas school. Regardless, I just think this is very normal college football. It's just the volume's up to 10 because his name is Arch Manning. So that's why I think Sark handled it well. He understands the situation. He understands that we're all very interested in what would normally be the normal process of a star quarterback coming in. So my take, this is just Sark's doing the best he can with the situation. And really, it's I just don't think there's any big downside here. If Quinn Ewers gets hurt and Arch Manning is awesome, then that's great. Bad for Quinn Ewers. And then Sark could just say, Quinn Ewers isn't feeling 100%. We're just going to keep Arch in there. And I just don't think it's going to be as bad. I don't think there's any like real huge downside. And he's not leaving Sark. I mean, if Quinn Ewers, who's actually, in my opinion, not that great, if he can be awesome under Sark, Sark gets guys wide open. Like Arch, there's a reason he's staying there. He seems like a great offensive coach. There's not Lincoln Riley. I like your Lincoln Riley solution too. They to go to UNC.
That made perfect sense to me, but not to the Mannings.
But I think Sark is like Lincoln Riley, right? Like you could get huge numbers there, and Arch probably realizes that. I mean, is there a more fun place to be than Austin, Texas? It's supposed to be a great atmosphere. I get this whole situation feels like, okay, it's going well. Maybe I'm being totally naive. I feel like this is like, all right, this is going as well as it can.
Well, I thought it was going as well, and it is going as well as it can. I mean, the whole Texas is back stuff, I mean, let's see.
Yeah. I mean, they were in the Final Four. This is awesome.
No, this is great. They're coming off a major high. It's not about that. It's just things changed also a little the moment I saw Arch in the Madden commercial. And I'm like, he's not hiding anymore, Like last year, true freshman, third on the depth chart. I think was the backup though in the college football playoff. But anyway, he was very much in the background, right, of what Texas was doing, for at least nationally. Like in some ways, you actually were able to put Arch Manning aside and be like, all right, this is just Texas and this is what they're doing. Then I saw him in the Madden commercial with Eli. I'm like, oh right. Not many backup quarterbacks are, first of all, it was a story when he didn't initially sign with EA and sign the deal to be part of the game. And then it became a big deal when he actually did sign up to be part of the game. I know there are probably people listening in their car right now who are rolling their eyes about this stupid Madden game, but I'm telling you, I think it sent a message like, I'm not going to be in the back anymore. I'm going to do a national commercial with my two-time Super Bowl champion uncle, and it's going to get a lot of attention. And yeah, Quinn Ewers was one of the guys who was on the cover of Madden, but one of them. And I don't think his Madden cover got as much attention as a national. Like Arch will always be more famous one, even though Quinn Ewers is a stud in his own right.
Yeah, but I think Arch seems like a real team player. Like I don't get any sense that Arch is about Arch. Because first of all, Arch has nothing to worry about. Like he's got money, he's going to have the NFL. Doesn't he strike you as a kid like the perfect disposition to be in this place? Like I feel like he's not going to whine at all.
No,
like 0%.
Totally. But yes, he also has tons of pressure on him. I mean, it seems like he handles it well, but how do you not? And actually, Steve Sarkisian said that's something that he and Quinn actually can bond over. Yeah. Ewers had a lot of pressure. Arch has a lot of pressure, and I think Sarkisian said everyone expects you to go out and throw 19 touchdowns because you're Peyton and Eli's nephew.
Right, but the Mannings famously very good at handling pressure. Eli was like the great Super Bowl guy. His pulse didn't even raise in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, I think Arch is perfectly suited to this. I mean, the whole thing is when Arch Manning was looking at colleges, remember we talked about LSU because of the New Orleans connection and Alabama, whatever. Yeah. Like we never thought, he would sit for 2 years. But for some reason, this whole thing makes sense to me. I mean, if Ewers gets hurt or he struggles and we see him, I think it's going to be very organic, Maggie. I think it's all going to make sense. I think this is going as well as it possibly could.
I love it. Organic, like some kind of strawberry.
Yeah, it's like Arch is going to walk in. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. Like, okay, cool. It's going to be the opposite of Bronny James, who's going to be basically the son who shouldn't be there. Arch is going to play, and it's all going to feel good, and it's going to be a love fest. Ewers, Arch, Sark, everybody hugging at the 50-yard line.
Amazing. Wow, what a beautiful picture you've painted. Zoom out. Nick Saban is picking Georgia and Texas to be in the SEC championship game. Are you expecting the same kind of, I don't want to say it's going to be easy, but quote unquote, easy first year of Texas coming in to the SEC and right out of the gate being a difference maker and a contender?
Well, they have a tough schedule, right? They have an easy schedule.
Oklahoma's got the real tough one.
But the thing about Texas is they lost a lot of guys. I don't totally understand that because I watched the draft and there were a lot of Texas guys. But nobody seems to care about that. Like they had 2 receivers go in the first 2 rounds. I personally am a believer like Sark will do any offense he can fix. So like you have, one of those Lincoln Riley type masterminds on offense. So I think with 12 teams, like they are a pretty safe bet to make the playoffs. So I feel good. Also, if it's Texas versus any other school, people are going to see the brand and they're going to take Texas. So I think they'll make the playoffs. I feel pretty good about that. You said, what was the question about them being 2? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, the idea though that anyone kind of waltzes into the SEC and just like, listen, LSU with Brian Kelly, a new coach, made the SEC championship game in his first year, but obviously you have all that muscle memory of playing in this conference for so long. I don't know if it's going to be as easy as everyone says. Far be it from me. Nick Saban knows a lot more. Here are some notable moments on the Texas schedule that could be something. Week 2 at Michigan.
Yeah, but Michigan is obviously like, if they can't win that game, then there's no playoff. Because like, who's in Michigan? Like, they have a new quarterback, a new coach. They can't be that good, can they?
Home for Georgia. Well, obviously the Red River rivalry. Then home for Georgia. So that's back-to-back weeks where you go Oklahoma and then Georgia. You also have, it's Florida, at Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas A&M. Like, you really lucked out here.
Yeah, that's the thing. They do have they should be able, where they were last year and who they have coming back compared to Michigan. Maybe I'm wrong about Michigan, and they still are going to keep this train rolling.
It's possible. I think it's possible Michigan's still good.
But it feels like, okay, you look at that. That's post-Harbaugh. Yeah, this schedule works out really well. Maybe I'm just buying into the hype. Like, you look at any preseason ranking, like, Texas is no lower than 3. So it's got to be a reason. I think that schedule helps. Yeah, they should really be fine. And let's face it, they have depth at quarterback. I would say, Ewers is going to get hurt. There's no way this could all work. But, hey, they have Arch sitting there. They're pretty good. Alabama, so they beat Alabama last year, right?
Yes.
That's what gives you
double digits in Tuscaloosa.
And that was, in my opinion, definitely a better Alabama team than this year's Alabama team. So if they could beat that Alabama team, like, why are you scared?
That was early in the season when the quarterback situation was a little dicey still with Jalen Milroe.
Still,
it's a major accomplishment.
They beat that crazy NFL offensive line and all the, Dallas Turner, all those defensive guys. They beat that team soundly.
No, I get it, but it was a little different just because the Milroe stuff. But your point is taken. I'm not trying to knock it down a peg. All right, you're welcome to weigh in on Texas and your expectations for them year one in the SEC. 855-212-4227. I believe we're on in Austin. We have a lot of affiliates. We love you all. Infinity Sportsnet. We're on in many places in Texas. You don't have to be living in Texas, though, to weigh in on the Longhorns. Did you also see the SEC is not going to penalize horns down? That's the right move, guys. It's the right move. You can't be throwing personal foul flags on horns down. We all have to grow a little thicker skin on that one. 855-212-4227. You're welcome to weigh in on the SEC. Okay, let's set the table for what this show is going to be like today because we got a good one. We are up to the AFC East in our NFL division breakdowns. So this is going to be exciting. Got a lot of news going on with that division. We have more news for you on Davante Adams. We have the multiverse of Maggie Perloff today. We also have a former college star and a former NFL head coach, Perloff, 22 seasons as a head coach in the NFL. Jeff Fisher's going to stop by the studio.
Nice.
How about that? Does he still have the mustache? We're all going to find out together. 855-212-4227, Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Portion of the show is sponsored by the all-new Hyundai 2024 Santa Fe, equipped for adventure with capable features like available 8-track all-wheel drive and standard third-row seating. Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. So we've been going division by division around the NFL, and now we hit a division very near and dear to Maggie Gray, the AFC East, where a certain team out of Western New York resides. It is a big expectation year once again in Buffalo. Maggie, why don't you lead us off? AFC East, what is the burning thought on that division?
With the Buffalo Bills. Okay, so we'll start with the Bills. We'll get to all the rest of the teams throughout the course of the show. Here is my thought on the Bills. If the Bills lose again to the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, Sean McDermott is out. He's got to be. It has been proven that the Kansas City Chiefs have the Bills' number. After 7 years with head coach McDermott, who I appreciate, who I think the players respect, I think he runs a very tight ship up there. He has so many things that I do like as far as a head coach goes. There are things I have issues with because every probably fan of their team, when you watch them closely, you're going to have issues. If you can't beat the Chiefs again, you have to make a change. What is going to change? You got to get a different voice in there, Perloff, and a different mentality, different approach. And I get it. Mahomes is the best. And Kelsey is not going to be there forever, but he's the best. And you're just up against this juggernaut, very Michael Jordan-like, keeping great players from winning championships. But I can't accept that as a Bills fan. I can't accept the losing to the Chiefs over and over and over again in the postseason.
What if it's in the title game, the conference title game?
Well, I mean, again, that's going to be...
Does it matter when it is? It's hard to turn away that.
Now you're asking me to really... we'd have to sort of see how the season goes. You're in the AFC Championship game.
I mean, it might...
I'm expecting you're winning that game.
Well, right. But if you say you lose to the Chiefs in the AFC title game, are you willing to go with that fire McDermott? Because I think there's a good case to be made. What's the point? We're just hitting the same wall no matter when it is in the playoffs.
Exactly. And it's just, to me, what else are you going to do here? You keep running into this foe and they keep having your number. And by the way, they've beat you in fluky ways. They've beat you on the road. They've beat you at home. It's never been beat downs. It's always close games. So maybe you say, well, Sean McDermott deserves credit for that. I can't imagine keep going in with the exact same thing, the exact same mindset, the exact same message to the team when you keep losing to the same opponent. I know they also lost to the Cincinnati Bengals at home one year, but that DeMar Hamlin year, I'm just going to sort of I am going to give the team a little grace on that one. That was very intense.
Is there any slight lowering of expectations because you lost some veterans this year? Stephon Diggs is gone. Poyer's gone. Tre'Davious White's gone.
Mitch Morse, their center, is gone. It's been a ton of turnover. Here's the thing about that. I think there is a bit of lowered expectations. And I think that's actually a great place for the Bills to sort of be.
If it is lower expectations, though, then isn't there less pressure by definition on Sean McDermott?
No, I think there's still the expectation that they're a playoff team and that by the end of the season, they will have figured this out. I think where the expectations are a little lower is if they start off the season 1-2 or 1-3, I don't think there's going to be the sort of sky is falling, they're leading every show, aspect. I think they're just going to get a little more time to figure it out because of all the new faces.
Yeah, but let's pull up the schedule. They have Arizona, at Miami, Jacksonville.
It doesn't matter. I'm just saying, if they get out to a slow start,
if they lose to Arizona in Week 1, you don't think the sky is falling in Buffalo? I think they lead Monday morning. What the hell's the matter? Oh, sorry, with Buffalo. You're kidding me. Of course, the sky is falling. They better. That's, by the way, the Bills are pretty good at beating bad teams and bad situations. Yeah,
they'll probably be. They'll be a touchdown favorite, maybe. I don't know, but here's my thing. I think there's going to be a little bit of patience, maybe not on the outside world, but I think with the fan base, if it takes a little bit to get this thing going this year because you've had a lot of turnover, I don't think everyone's going to be freaking out if the season doesn't start off. But I'm just saying, at the end of the season, if Allen is healthy. And if you have shown signs that this is going to work post Stephon Diggs and that getting younger actually, was the right move and this was the right time to do it, if you lose to the Chiefs again, I just don't see how you keep the coaching staff. I don't know.
Full disclosure, you kind of thought this halfway through last year, too.
I wanted Jim Harbaugh. I'm very open about that. I wanted them to start pursuing Jim Harbaugh. They didn't do it. And maybe Jim Harbaugh was never going to go to Buffalo. Maybe it would have been a fool's errand. You put LA versus Buffalo, that's not going to be a fair fight. But I thought if the front office had really made an attempt, I think Josh Allen and coaching Josh Allen, how do you turn that down if you're not any head coach, you're a former quarterback?
Well, I mean, I don't want to rip the area, but I'm not sure. Jim Harbaugh had SoFi in LA, Western New York. Not exactly same. I'm not sure Buffalo has their choice of coaches. Maybe.
I think so. No, I just said you're not going to win a beauty contest if it's between Buffalo and LA. I understand that, but Jim Harbaugh just spent the last 7 years in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so he understands what this is about, even if there's a personal pull there. And I think coaching Josh Allen is a major. That would be incredibly appealing.
Well, you got Justin Herbert in LA. Honestly, if I'm not sure that. And also, he seems to, like, Harbaugh has a connection to California. I'm not sure that was such a bang that he would have taken Buffalo over.
Didn't matter. They didn't pursue him at all.
Yeah,
and Sean McDermott has a lot of power in the organization.
Have they ever gotten, like, the top coach on the cycle? Like, McDermott was, like, kind of an afterthought, right?
They didn't have Josh Allen at the time. They were a woebegone, wandering in the wilderness franchise who just kept getting their butts whipped by Tom Brady.
Yeah, and I think Justin Herbert's a little younger, than like a couple years younger than Josh Allen. Anyway, regardless, they didn't get Harbaugh. I saw an interesting argument the other day about, I'm going to take a slight left turn here. Does Josh Allen have a chance to go down as the greatest dual threat quarterback in NFL history? Because the funny thing about him is we don't think of him as a dual threat quarterback.
We don't?
No. He's definitely not. Nobody compares, like, it's Lamar Jackson's the ultimate dual threat quarterback.
Right, or Michael Vick.
No, I'm telling you right now, Josh Allen does not have that reputation, but I think he's underestimated as a dual threat quarterback. Does he have a chance? Now, I don't think so, because I think it's clearly going to be Lamar. Lamar Jackson is by far the superior dual threat quarterback of this generation.
And to be
fair, he's a much better runner. Although Josh Allen's an awesome runner, Lamar Jackson's a superior runner.
Yeah. I mean, Josh is just so big, he can, like, bowl people over. Lamar's not doing that. Like, Lamar's avoiding contact, which is smart, and Josh Allen's inviting it, which is dumb. But I think he is considered a dual threat. I mean, listen, right now, would you even put Cam Newton in front of Josh? I mean, at least Cam Newton went to a Super Bowl and was an MVP. Allen doesn't have that yet.
Wow, Cam Newton, didn't he run for 16 touchdowns one season? He's, I could see that.
I think there's a few guys ahead of Josh Allen.
The funny thing is, like, I just think maybe it's just a skin color, but you don't think of Josh Allen mainly as a dual threat quarterback.
Oh, I mean, I do. Because everyone in Buffalo is always just holding their breath every time he takes off. And it's a huge part of his game.
Right. But, like, for example, he's gone over 4,000 yards, 4 years in a row, like, by far, where I don't think Lamar Jackson's ever hit 4,000 yards. So I think if you're saying dual threat, the balance of passing and rushing is a little more severe with Lamar Jackson, for example. Like, Lamar Jackson almost is as productive as a runner as he is a passer throughout his career. I mean, Todd Monken's probably changing that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's so obvious, because he does throw for, like, a lot of yards, and he throws all the time, too. In fact, to the point where I think you wisely pointed out, Buffalo's got to stop calling so many darn pass plays.
Well, I always thought they were funny because they are a cold weather team that plays like a dome team. Then they actually got the funding to build a new stadium and didn't put a dome on the top of it. What are we doing?
Oh, well, yeah. No, listen, that's my tax money that's going to build that idiotic stadium.
I don't care.
They're basically building MetLife Stadium in Western New York. I totally agree. It's the most non-special stadium I've ever seen. I've seen the designs. It's just like a normal outdoor stadium. Why?
This is the type of stuff when I'm laying awake at night and I can't fall asleep and I'm staring up at the ceiling and I'm just wondering, why didn't they put a dome on it? Like, why didn't they just build a dome? Josh Allen's going to be there for the next 10 years.
It is kind of soft to build a dome, though. If you're a cold weather team, building a dome is kind of lame.
Well, like, what is it? Do I care about being soft, or I care about winning a Super Bowl?
Yeah, you care about being soft. Like, you don't want to be like honestly, like, Green Bay's super cool. Minnesota, I think they're probably doomed to failure because they are too scared to play outside.
I don't think so. I don't think that's it. They just somehow angered some football god back probably when Leif Erikson was crossing the Atlantic.
Yeah, by putting a roof on and out there, like, you're like, well, the God said Lambeau is that's for tough guys. You know, Minnesota, like, let's have the leading receiver in the league and the NFC North. Anyway, I think that's an interesting argument. I don't think people view Josh Allen exactly the same. You've always said, like, his running is a big deal. The other thing, too, is, like, they have to de-emphasize his running. Like, they just have to, Maggie.
I've given up on this. They always say this. They say he's not going to run. He's going to try to save himself. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I watch all these games. It lasts for, like, 2 weeks.
Yeah, but last year.
And then it doesn't and then he reverts back to it. Yeah. So it's fine.
But Joe Brady came in last year, and all of a sudden, boom, you have a running back game. That was awesome. So that's why I'm actually, I think, a little more excited about the Bills this year. I think the rest of the AFC East is pretty dicey. So they have a good chance here to once. How many years in a row have they won it? Like, or been in?
I think it's 4 years in a row as the AFC East champs.
I think they're shaping up pretty good, even without Diggs. So anyway, I'm excited for your Bills. I'm not. You, I know, are nervous as always. Sure. They could be up by 4 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and you'd be on the edge of your seat.
I mean, I probably, if they actually even got to the Super Bowl, I don't know if I'd be able to watch it. I really don't think I would be able to. 855-212-4227. Just let me know what happens. Andrew Bogusch is here. Harrowing morning for you.
It was, but then I just remembered, I don't want to jinx it, but I believe we're 2 hours away from getting a well-seasoned steak from Pete Bellotti.
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
A show bet was
steak.
Yeah, a show bet was made yesterday. I believe Pete's going to lose, so that has turned my morning in the right direction.
Wait. I was here yesterday. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's not surprising.
Perloff has a memory of a goldfish.
It's a good
I
show,
do
Perloff.
too.
A well-seasoned steak?
Okay, so Bellotti only likes a well-seasoned steak, so this is Bellotti's picks. He did say yesterday, you said you would be so shocked if head coach Jeff Fisher was going to keep his commitment and come in to do the interview, considering there was a bit of turmoil around the Arena Football League, of which he is the interim commissioner, and you thought, no way he's doing this interview today. I texted Peter Schwartz yesterday, his personal PR / our sometimes update guy, and Peter said he's ready to go.
Oh, but he's not here yet, so let's not jinx it.
Right. Hey, let's let this game kick off and see what happens.
But I did see Peter Schwartz was posting pictures from the field at the mall in New Jersey yesterday saying, game on Friday, can't wait, media day Thursday afternoon. So we are full steam ahead.
Okay, so I was doing a little more research about this thing, and obviously Coach Fisher will be able to share more details with us about what happened with this Arena League, because it's been super dramatic, where the CEO of the league is now being accused of theft, got a hold of a colleague's credit card, may or may not have charged up over $100,000 on it, and is now being denied entry into the United States. I believe he resides in Canada, so that's where the issue is. But they were saying that they could play the game, the championship, at American Dream, this sort of big indoor mall in New Jersey, if somebody came up with the money. Because somebody owed American Dream the fee, to play there. And I'm wondering who ponied up the cash.
Schwartz.
Peter, period, Schwartz, period.
You think he's got that later out?
I think Pete turned in some cards, some bobbleheads, some ticket stubs.
Liquidated some
He went-
Boomer
yep.
Esiason jerseys?
He moved some money around. He got liquid, and he came to the rescue of his beloved Arena Football. Now, they still will not let him broadcast the games, which probably was his end goal with this maneuver. But at least there will be a game on Friday in New Jersey.
Oh my gosh, if he saves the championship game, they should make him the new, I don't know,
should
king
make
of
him
the
the-
arena.
He should play
Should be the new
quarterback.
commissioner.
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know if Jeff Fisher wants to step aside.
Should name the league after him.
Seriously, you
Peter
got
Schwartz League.
the Schwartz Arena League.
Gosh, it's weird that I didn't wrap my head around all this.
How could you forget this?
I am so confused by all these words that are coming out. Was Canada involved in that somewhere?
Yeah, guys being denied entry. I looked up his
there's
LinkedIn.
A mall. By the way, you guys say the mall like, I don't.
Probably
I think
should go
most people
talk to
don't
somebody
understand.
about this.
What's that?
You should probably talk to somebody about this.
It's this
because
shift,
the Arena
man.
Football League and a mall in Canada and Peter Schwartz and Jeff Fisher. You think the audience has any idea what the heck you guys are talking
Yeah,
about?
because they were
right?
listening yesterday. You sat
No.
there and you were Googling the name of this CEO who's banned from the U.S.
Yes.
You were laughing along,
I told this story yesterday. I was on the phone with a sports business guy, a guy who follows sports business, and I was like, "Have you heard this Arena League football story?" He's like, "What are you talking about?"
Well, again, we only knew because Pete barged in like it was breaking news, like real breaking news.
And you don't find those details that Maggie just said slightly confusing?
No,
This
I
is-
knew because it was from yesterday.
Yes, but this is the oddest story ever. This is one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard in my life.
Well, that's why I brought it up.
And-
I love an odd story.
Yes,
I
and-
live for odd stories.
You're like, and there was something
Gets
about
me
a
out of
mall.
bed.
How
Yeah.
would a mall fit into a sports story? Is a normal
That's
question
where
to
they're
ask. out
playing
there.
the championship
I know.
game.
That is hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how they're playing it in a mall, but
But it's an unusual mall, I guess, right?
it's got a water
That's the
park
one
in
with the
it.
ski slope, and yeah.
There you go, Perloff.
I've never been there, but anyway, so that's what's going on. So I guess, Pete, technically, you do owe a steak. Now, where do you get a steak at 6:38 in the
I'm
morning?
not getting you a steak right now. No chance. I'll get you a steak. It'll come.
You go to a diner, get
It'll
steak and
come.
eggs.
Yeah, International House of Pancakes probably has a nice little steak right now. You Steak want and that- eggs. You
Yeah.
want that steak?
Can I ask you guys a question about steak and eggs? I feel like it's a really aggressive breakfast. What do you do after steak and eggs? You can't just go to a job after that. Wouldn't you be in a coma?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels more like a Sunday brunch kind of breakfast. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It's a lot for breakfast. Maybe this is my own bias. Do you often order this for breakfast?
No. Does
What?
anyone actually?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
I don't.
I used to, in college, there was a diner that had great steak and eggs deal, so we'd party and go and eat it.
Right. It's a little more for like hangover
breakfast.
stuff.
absorb the alcohol.
Yeah, right. Soak
I'm
it
more
up.
of a Eggs Benedict guy myself. You throw me an Eggs Benedict, some hollandaise sauce. You're right. That is also quite filling, but let's go. I don't know.
So you eat it and then have to go back to bed.
Well, it's your choice. You can get steak from around here at McDonald's or IHOP or whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Not steak.
I can get a box of steaks.
A box of like Omaha steaks?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, dude.
Yeah, that's high roller.
Well, you should just go to IHOP.
Get Perloff a cheesesteak. He's dying for it. He keeps talking about how he has to pay off his bet where you have to eat 3.5 an hour or something.
I had a huge cheesesteak the other day. Yeah, cheesesteak, that's not a steak.
No, but maybe for our purposes.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe you do order from IHOP and order it after Peter Schwartz gets here and tell him that we're getting it because he'd be very jealous.
Might want to be in on the order. I get it.
Is Schwartzy going to walk in like in a suit, being all prim and proper
Yeah,
PR guy
right.
today?
Oh, that's a great question.
I
Oh, my
hope
God.
so.
What is Peter Schwartz going to be wearing? Is he's the PR for the Arena
We're
Football League?
wearing a Wesley Walker jersey.
Or a New York Dragons pullover.
Yes.
I think it's team issued
Ooh.
gear,
Ooh,
Yeah, I can
which
see
that's
that.
acceptable. You work for a sports
is.
league.
totally.
What a story this is.
Well, we'll find out. Well, we got to have the coach separate the fact from fiction here because this thing is just too much.
Does he even know?
I'm about to say, Jeff Fisher's going to look at us blankly when you tell him all those details. And that's how he should play it. He should be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean,
None of that happened.
He's just going to look at you. I can't wait. Like, say all that to Jeff
look
Fisher.
at me. It's you and
No,
I who are both doing the
I'm not-
interview, dude.
I'm not telling him. I'm not, you're clearly you're doing the business side of this. This is on you, Mag. Sorry.
This is on both
I
of
don't.
us.
I can't wrap my head around all this.
We both did journalism at Sports Illustrated. You can't now just say I'm not doing any
I
of it.
don't understand this story. I don't understand it. I'd just be like, can we just say, Jeff, can you explain?
I'm
what
going
is
to
going
ask
on?
him. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to ask him. Yeah,
You're not
asking
gonna
him.
listen.
I was
All
just thinking
of a
about
sudden,
that.
you'd be like under the table. All of a sudden, you pull out a Steve McNair jersey somehow.
Jeff
Just a
Fisher
pander.
he avoided answering questions for 20 years in the NFL. He will avoid this so easily. But this one's easy. He can just look at you blankly like, you're making that up, Maggie. That's what he should say. Because this story makes no sense. And you guys are acting like it makes any kind of sense.
All right. Well, I
Let's
guess
start
our
with the
bad.
fact that Jeff Fisher is the Arena League commissioner.
It's the interim.
And that they're playing it
Interim.
in a mall.
He stepped in at a time when the league was really on thin ice. I applaud
That was
him
3
for
weeks
it.
ago.
Was it?
Basically.
Yesterday.
The rest of your headlines are sponsored, I think, by
We have
Progressive
no time for
Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance. Caitlin Clark, a WNBA single game record, 19 assists last night. She also scored 24 points, but the Fever lost again, 101-93 in Dallas. Justin Thomas was off and running in round one of the Open Championship at Royal Troon. He was 4 under through 11 in the lead by 2 shots, but a recent double bogey has dropped into a 5-way tie for the lead at 2 under. Alex Noren is in the clubhouse with a 2 under 69. Rory McIlroy opened with a bogey back even through 4 holes. And we're still waiting on Scotty Scheffler, Brooks Koepka, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger Woods to start their rounds. Tiger teeing off at 9:37 Eastern this morning. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thanks so much. Coming in, we will dive deeper into that Caitlin Clark game from last night. Record setting, as Bogusch just outlined. Also, another number 1 overall pick. Get some paperwork done. But are we off to an odd start with Caleb Williams and the Bears? We'll get to that next. It's Maggie Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff on this very fine Thursday. History-making performance last night, Perloff, from who else? Caitlin Clark. Fever, unfortunately, fall in the game, but Clark has 19 assists in this one. That breaks the record. Courtney Vandersloot, I believe, had 18.
Did anybody get any stats before this year in the WNBA? Because every game is breaking every single record.
I think we're just paying attention a
how
little
many
bit
years
more.
has the WNBA been around?
25?
And apparently nobody had a big game until Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese arrived. But go ahead.
Well, Caitlin is edging some of these out by just a little bit. So Courtney Vandersloot had 18 assists. She has 19. Caitlin scored or assisted on 66 points. Diana Taurasi scored or assisted on 65 points several years ago. So it's just like she's just sort of beating out some of these all-time great
But
players.
Angel Reese got the double-double record. I mean, it is kind of funny. Sometimes it's like the number of records that are being broken is feels a little unprecedented. But congrats. Now, here's my question about this.
Sure.
I hate high usage players. Like, I can't stand when James Harden takes every shot and assists on every shot. I can't stand the way Luka used to be. He's getting better where either Luka had the assist or he shot. Like as my friend Doc Rivers would said, you always knew where the ball was when James Harden's on the court, so it's much easier to defend. Like this is very obviously not a free-flowing offense just based on, I couldn't watch it last night. I was on Amazon. I didn't see it, but it feels like Caitlin has the ball in her hand all the time. She's either assisting or like, how hard is that to defend? Like, no wonder she can't hit a 3-point shot because I would just like, I put everybody on her.
Yeah, the assist kind of has to, right? Because she's got the ball in her hand. She's trying to set up her teammates and teammates are delivering. You've had an issue with how this team is coached for a while.
Yeah, like actually, I don't remember Iowa being such a ball dominant.
Well, she had a point guard with her.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody tweeted us that changed her career at Iowa when they brought in a different point guard. I just feel like they should be more free-flowing. This is a nitpicking. Like, I think she's Steph Curry, and I feel like they're making her more James Harden.
Right. Okay.
Like James Harden once had 14 assists a game. Like, I think that they should. Listen, I don't really know their talent that well, but I feel like they should move the ball around more and get her some open threes. They get that 3-point in an ideal world. Now, listen, they're still developing. They've had the number 1 pick 2 years in a row. But ideally, I think their offense has to be a little more
dynamic.
Dynamic, right? Like they shouldn't have 66 points coming out of Caitlin Clark. That's not what you want.
Well, I guess the other part too is you and I have talked about this. The assist numbers are really impressive. She actually only had 6 turnovers last night too, so it's not like it was this high turnover. I mean, 6 is kind of a lot, but when you have 19 assists. And she's such a big part of the offense. But you and I have both marveled at the fact that it's not the 3-point shooting that's really been the thing. And she was 2 for 9 from 3 last night. It's just been hard for her to get her shot off. And on the point of 3-point shooting, she still is an excellent 3-point shooter. We know this. She's not setting the all-time scoring record in college if she's not an incredible 3-point shooter. Can someone please make this make sense to me? Why is Caitlin Clark and Sabrina Ionescu not participating in the WNBA 3-point competition at the All-Star break? As far as I know, they're not injured. They're not hurt.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity where you can showcase these two incredible shooters. Why would you not take this easy layup, no pun intended?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you this is set it up for you on a platter, WNBA. What is going on?
Well, I mean, who knows where it came from? Like, why? Let me ask this question. Why would LeBron never do the dunk contest? Because he doesn't want to look bad. I think there's nothing to gain for Caitlin Clark or Sabrina Ionescu. Sabrina Ionescu is already competing against Steph Curry, the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. Like, she has nothing to gain here. And Caitlin Clark, she's the sports singular superstar. She has nothing to gain. So I would stay away from this thing. Because
nothing to gain? We're talking about this league trying to break through even more.
I understand from her side, but Caitlin Clark, I would say, a definite hard pass on that.
Wait, hold on. When LeBron never competing in the dunk contest, also that wasn't celebrated. That's like weak sauce.
Yeah, no, this is weak sauce by Caitlin. I'm sure
and
she
Sabrina.
said
Why you
but
compete
what is
against
she?
Steph
Sabrina
Curry?
should not do this either. If I'm her, I say no as well. I mean, the WNBA, definitely get them in it. But I understand the stars, like the big stars, like. Yeah, LeBron not doing the dunk contest made sense to me. Like, he doesn't have anything to gain. Like, Zion doesn't want to do the dunk contest. He says he will, but I don't think he ever will. He's like, what does he have to gain? He's already the most dynamic player. So I just don't see an upside. What's the upside? She'll probably come in 3rd or something, and like people are like, I don't know. She's a bit of a fraud or something.
Well, I guess maybe the dunk contest, first of all, you're going to be compared to like Michael Jordan and Dominique, and so I get that. But this is not like... This should be the one thing they're raring to, like, they can't wait to do. You're shooting threes. Who cares? You're shooting threes, which is your best skill set with no defenders. This is practice. Like, the degree of difficulty on a dunk that you're trying to create this amazing memory and moment, that's outside of the ordinary of what you do. Sabrina and Caitlin shooting threes in an empty, with no one in front of them, just for the hell of it, is like, they should be salivating at this.
But wait, you think there's no downside for Caitlin Clark if she loses?
You think how? She's going to brick a couple threes? Who
Yeah,
cares?
if she comes. I mean, you don't think that if she came in 4th in this 3-point contest, that would be a thing? That would. What
Do you know who came in 2nd place in last year's NBA 3-point shooting
No, but
competition?
Caitlin Clark did not lose it. Like, yeah, there's no analogy here. Like, people are all paying attention to Caitlin Clark. Her losing this would be bad. Like, this is all downside. I would avoid it. And I think she's thinking that way, too. Like, why does she need this?
Making business decisions already? It's halfway through the season. By the way, we don't know that's why she's not doing it, but afraid to be embarrassed? What are we doing here? If that's actually the case, that is not a good look. Or for Sabrina, too. Okay, you're welcome to weigh in that. 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
We're wandering through the sitcom wilderness, trying to crown the greatest sitcom of all time. Welcome back to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Don't worry, plenty of sports. We've got Davante Adams on Shannon Sharp's podcast. We've got breadcrumbs being led about where he's going to play this year. Plenty of sports to do, but we do have to update our brackets now. We're into round 2. First, some results from yesterday, Perloff, including a big upset. Yesterday, we revealed the second round of the Cheers region of the Maggie Perloff Sitcom Bracket. Well, Cheers moves ahead easily over Arrested Development. I was surprised this wasn't a little bit more of a fight.
Arrested Development, pretty much a niche show, I think. I don't think, I mean, they were always on the border of being canceled, right? The entire existence of the show. So that doesn't surprise me.
Moving on, Happy Days as the 5th seed. It took out 2.5 Men, 55-45. You also had Friends over South Park, 54-46.
See, South Park is a force. Anyone who likes South Park loves South Park, so I'm not surprised. Those are two heavyweights. South Park probably should have been a little higher. They bet too early, it feels like.
There was a major controversy about whether animated shows should have been sitcoms, and we ended up maybe seeding some of these animated shows a little bit low, although Simpsons is a 1 seed in this bracket. And then the big upset, the 3rd seed in this region is Modern Family. Down goes Frasier. Modern Family loses to the 11 seed Married with Children. You were not shocked by this.
Well, no, I knew Married with Children was going to do really well in this bracket because Married with Children apparently dominated this barstool competition once. Like, it is just, I don't know why. People who vote on these things love Married with Children. It's the right age. This is all about timing, right? I don't know what year Married with Children was, but most of the people who vote on these polls seem to have this like sweet spot of sitcoms, and it came right in that time. Yeah, Modern Family is a great show. I'm not sure why that didn't catch fire here because it is quite popular. There's now I see those guys on the commercials during every single sporting event. The cast of Modern Family is selling AT&T or Verizon or somebody.
Yeah,
anyway,
Married with Children, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, why, Pete, you're a Married with Children fan. Why is that resonating so much with people?
I think the Al Bundy character is a big deal. I think
iconic, like Archie Bunker.
One of the best characters ever in a sitcom.
I mean, it's Ed O'Neill versus Ed O'Neill, though, in this matchup. Modern Family, where he plays Jay, against Married with Children, where he's Al Bundy.
Yeah, I think it's been around longer, and I think it has a following, a major following, and that's what helps.
Yeah.
Just interesting to me that the recency bias didn't overtake this one. Like in other cases, the nostalgia didn't win out. Golden Girls, and other ones that have had second life and found a younger audience, like with guys Manny's age, Big Zoo, who was sitting in the other day, big Golden Girls fan, even though he's like 28. Yet with Modern Family and Married with Children, didn't have the same impact, the recency bias stuff. Anyway, let's move on to the MASH region. Now, here are the matchups for you in the second round of the MASH region. Are we ready to go? The number 1 seed in this region, of course, is MASH. MASH goes up against the 8th seed. That is Everybody Loves Raymond. There's something about the 90s where you had to basically do some kind of jazz riff as like your opening theme song.
By the way, this upset potential here, we all know it.
You think so?
I think so, yes. I could be dead wrong, but I feel like there are a lot of Everybody Love Raymond fans out there. It does very well in syndication.
I agree.
Move on. The 5th seed in the MASH region is Good Times.
Good times. Anytime you need a payment. Good times. Anytime you need a free. Good times. Anytime you're out from under. Not getting hassled, not getting hustled. Keeping your head above water. Making
If you want something really embarrassing, just check out our live stream, youtube.com/infinitysportsnet, twitch.tv/infinitysportsnet, or at Maggie Gray on X. When these theme songs come on and Perloff and I start dancing a little bit, that is a sight. Okay, here's fourth seed in this region. We know it's a little problematic. We felt like we couldn't do the bracket without it. Here's The Cosby Show. All right, moving on, the MASH region. We're in the second round of the MASH region of the Maggie and Perloff Sitcom Bracket. Number 6 is Curb Your Enthusiasm. Curb Your Enthusiasm faces off with the third seed in this region. That's Frasier. Now sounds exactly like Everybody Loves Raymond.
What's a Frasier song? Green Eggs and Ham or something?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't never notice this.
Okay, and then rounding this out, the 10th seed in the MASH region is Perloff's favorite show. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And they will stack up against the 2 seed, All in the Family.
By the way Glenn Miller played
Songs that made the hit parade.
guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
And you knew when
Okay,
you were.
so it's early in the morning for that. At Maggie. Sounds like me at karaoke. At Maggie and Pearl on X is where you can go to vote. Manny gives it a wild thumbs up. So there you go. Let's hit the phones, 855-212-4227. We're just talking about Caitlin Clark making history last night. Perloff, 19 assists. She either scored or assisted on 66 points. That's also a record. And I was just a little baffled why she and Sabrina Ionescu are not doing the WNBA All-Star 3-point competition. I feel like I just want to see those two go head-to-head. This feels like a moment the WNBA is missing. Guy is in Portland, has a thought. Good morning, Guy.
Hello, Maggie and Perloff. Hey, thanks for taking my call, and thank you for getting some coverage on the WNBA. And I just want to say that I agree with Perloff. Christy Sides, if you look at Caitlin in college, she felt free to take shots anytime she wanted. I think she's overly tried to pass the ball around to show that, she's not the diva that all the media says she is. And another thing, what's going on here is a cultural thing. My daughters are 12 and 14. The reason they love Caitlin is because she's small and she's mighty. And I think she's doing what Tiger did for golf in a way, showing girls that they can do it too. And she's overcome so much. They were targeting her. Diana Taurasi didn't say, well, Angel Reese has a lot to do. It's got a big surprise coming in this league. She said Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
They were saying at first that she wouldn't make it. She's too small. She's overcome all that. Another thing is to point out, she's sold out everywhere she's gone. There's so many 22 jerseys in the audience. They give her a standing ovation at the end of games, even when she's not in her own house. I just wanted to point that out, and thank you guys for the show.
Guy, but do you feel like she's getting shortchanged? I feel like Caitlin's getting a lot of coverage. She's now minus 2,000 on DraftKings to win Rookie of the Year. I feel like she is sort of getting her respect, no?
No, I do feel that now. I really do. I mean, you're right. And Diana Taurasi even said Caitlin Clark is amazing what she's brought to this league. But, at first she wasn't. And I saw her get slapped around. But, yeah, she's finally getting – and I want to give a shout-out to the New York Liberty and Jonquel Jones. She's like the Shaq of this league. And I wish that more people would watch the WNBA, and I think they are. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right. By the way,
Thank you, Guy.
I do agree with a couple things with that. She's first of all, she's not small.
No,
she's 6 feet tall. She's
she's
pretty, but
taller than Sabrina.
I do like one thing he said. Did he say Wayne Gretzky? Like she's definitely she has lifted all those boats on WNBA. I agree with you. Like I think it has hit. I understand what Guy was saying when she came in, but now it's like I think she's delivered on that aspect of this story. Is like she has definitely lifted the WNBA. I don't think anyone can argue about that.
No, and I think, you had the Kennedy Carter quote, besides threes, what else does she do? That just hasn't really aged well. And I think there was a lot going on there. And, this kind
That
of
was a
track.
Kennedy. I don't.
Yeah.
Isn't Kennedy Carter the person who elbowed her?
Yeah.
Oh, she also had a quote. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
Remember,
Yeah.
she wasn't going to answer any questions about Caitlyn, and that's when it really got into a fever pitch because she's Angel Reese's teammate in Chicago, and I think there were a couple bumps there, obviously, and Caitlyn definitely was getting physical play. They still are playing really physical, but she's clearly figuring it out. It's not a finished product by any stretch. She's definitely figuring it out. I can't get off of this 3-point thing. Like I know it's a small thing. It's just the All-Star game. It's not a regular season game. But still, like I need somebody. I need an explanation.
Well,
I need to know the why behind this. Why would Caitlin Clark and Sabrina Ionescu not be in this competition? Steph Curry was in it. Larry Bird famously did it. Like on the men's side, the big Ray Allen did it. The big 3-point shooters always stepped up here. I don't see it as the same as the dunk contest where guys famously flaked on it because they didn't want to be embarrassed or compared to Jordan or Dominique or whatever this was. This is just 3-pointers. It's not 360 dunks or you're not Vince Carter. Like, I don't get it.
Well, LeBron, who flaked on him besides LeBron?
I think there's been other guys.
I think he's the only person.
Did Anthony Edwards do it? I don't know. He's still so young.
Oh, yeah. Actually, he hasn't done it yet. But anyway, would you rather have her in the 3-point shooting contest or your Olympic teams? I think that's where most people's ire has been focused, the fact that she hasn't been named to the Olympic team yet, although she might take over for Taurasi at some point, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. I feel like we already went through that. Like, she got, I thought, snubbed from that team.
But there's still,
and she's better now than even when that team was first named.
But I think when they arrive in Paris and she's not on that team, that's going to be a bigger noise than even this. Well, it's funny. You're right. I don't think a lot of people are talking about her not being in the 3-point.
It just happened.
Oh, okay.
Right. It just got announced late last night, I believe, on who's going to be in the 3-point competition. So
I thought we talked about it yesterday.
We weren't sure.
Oh,
it was
okay.
Sabrina Ionescu was being coy about it when she was asked in a post-game interview. So who is going to be in the 3-point competition? Say, Maggie, don't be so negative. Who is? Stephanie Dolson?
Ooh.
Former UConn.
Don't count her out.
Alicia Gray, Jonquel Jones, who guy from Portland just brought up that she's like the Shaq of the WNBA, also GW. Marina Mabry just traded last night from Chicago to Connecticut. She will also be in the competition. So it's not. Oh, I'm sorry, Kayla McBride.
Wow. That is a star-studded list.
But where's Caitlin and Sabrina? No disrespect to these women, but I asked this even on the men's side. When Steph Curry's not participating, where is he?
I was just kidding, by the way. You know those people?
Yeah, I know them. Jonquel Jones went to GW. My alma mater.
But if she's the
Stephanie
Shaq
Dolson actually called one of her high school games a million years ago, if you believe that.
Well, if this person is the Shaq of the WNBA, how is the Shaq of the WNBA in the 3-point shooting contest?
It's just like Karl Anthony Towns won a 3-point competition. It's not exactly Shaq. That was guys, talking about her dominance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I'm interested. By the way, all this talk about the WNBA 3-point shooting contest, I'm totally going to watch it now.
See, but okay, good.
Yeah. But
if it had been Sabrina versus Caitlin, don't you think you would have set an alarm?
No, that would have been cool. But I wonder, who said no?
And why?
I mean, obviously the WNBA. Do you think there's a 1 second where the WNBA didn't want Caitlin Clark in their 3-point shooting contest? That seems impossible to me. It obviously came from her side.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Especially when you're about to take this big break. And not for Sabrina, she's going to the Olympics. But for Caitlin, you're going to play in the All-Star game. And then if you don't go to the Olympics, you are getting this big break. And also, can you blame fatigue? It's a 3-point competition. I feel like that's not asking for a lot for a professional athlete.
Maybe there's a thing where, because you have to admit that it doesn't really have, some of the big stars are not doing it. Those aren't the household names. Why does Breanna Stewart ever do it? I have no idea.
855-212-4227. So that's what I'm kind of hung up on today. We also have the MASH region of the Maggie and Perloff Sitcom Bracket Round 2. Is that live, guys? It is live. Thank you. You can go vote at Maggie and Pearl on X. Got lots more to do. Think that's it? It's not. We've got Davante Adams, an open book on what's going on with the Raiders and these rumors about him teaming up with Aaron Rodgers again. Don't move. It's Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining.
Peter Bellotti.
Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Sitcom Bracket still going on. There is a interesting battle here. Curb Your Enthusiasm versus Frasier. Man, I'm going to stay up all night watching those results. You can go to our Twitter feed at Maggie and Pearl to vote or call us 212-4227. Pete is happy, married with children, knocked out Modern Family. I don't get it. Anyone can explain the Married with Children phenomenon. Yes, it's a good show, but it could win the whole thing, Pete.
Let me correct you on that. I am happy Married with Children moving on.
Yeah.
I'm not happy Modern Family's been eliminated because I like Modern Family too.
Do you think that Married with Children could have an NC State Villanova like run and win this whole darn thing?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Here's a question. Does Married with Children, not that it matters for the purposes of this sitcom bracket, but does it hold up at all? Like, is it a fun experience to sit down and watch an episode of Married with Children now? Because I think about it when I was a kid, I was like, it was kind of racy. It was kind of...
For me, whenever I watch these shows, I put myself in that time.
Right. Late 80s, early 90s.
You have to.
It's a great point.
Because you can't go with it on what's happening now. Then you won't be watching anything.
Okay, but can we apply this to a sports argument that we often make, which is great players could have played in any era? So if you are truly a great sitcom, could you have existed in any era, much like we think of, if Bill Russell played today?
I'm not a big fan of that argument either.
Bill Russell would have no chance. He was a 6'9" shot blocker.
I think you got to go by their eras. You got to go by how impactful they were in that certain era.
So Will Chamberlain scored 50 points a game, and nobody gives him, any credit because of anyway.
Well, don't you think that's a common sports argument, right?
Yeah,
great players could play in any era, like Bobby Orr could play today or whatever. They transcend. But should we not hold sitcoms to that same standard? If it's funny in 1989, should it also be funny in 2024?
It's very rare. Even I watched a Cheers the other day. It was just much funnier in 1987 than it is right now. I can tell you.
There's movies that I was really into as a kid. Now I'm not that into it.
Of course.
And it's just because it's how it translates to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Maggie. I don't think you're going to find Caddyshack 2 as hilarious as you did when you were 9 years old.
I beg to differ. I think I might, but that's because I have the humor of a 9-year-old.
I think some you're right. Some shows definitely translate, but most do not. I mean, I'm looking at this list I'm not sure MASH is as fun. MASH was funny. Now nobody, no 9-year-old's going to go on and laugh, or nobody's going to laugh at MASH right now.
Okay, but there's a reason why we, show old things to our kids now. We want them to see the things from before, and
I show them stuff from the 90s, though, not the 60s.
Okay, I'm thinking about more, I guess, maybe with movies, maybe with TV shows, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, they didn't translate.
Really?
Oh, my God.
I don't know why
there are things at Ferris Bueller's Day Off that are so impolitically correct. My daughter was like, you guys were allowed to say this stuff back then? And 16 Candles, too. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Wait, let me get
my daughter looked at it like, this is the most insane thing ever.
That's not a good one. I don't know
the
why I
mom
went to that.
doesn't know that that's a dummy and a sound system? Is the mom, brain dead?
I'll say this. If somebody is laughing at a movie from the 70s or 80s now, as they did back then, I think it should be bonus points for that show. If they're not laughing, I don't think it should be a
knock on it. Okay. But you don't think you could sit down and watch an episode of The Jeffersons right now? You will laugh.
Yes.
Oh,
no, you
I
will
love
not.
The Jeffersons.
No, you will not. I've seen them recently. Those jokes, dude, they're just like any show. It's not as funny as it was then. It can't be.
I'm into character development, and I think they were just so beautiful in terms of characters.
Which character?
George and Wheezy, obviously.
Wheezy, all of them.
You think George developed?
Yeah.
He moved on up.
Yeah, he moved on up.
George was I loved the Jeffersons, but George was a bit of a one-trick pony. Came in and raised his voice and was like, Wheezy, what are you doing?
That's all you needed. Well, that's why I like the Honeymooners. That's why I was not in favor of them being so low, because they were from the 50s, had one season, and people are still laughing at them today.
My daughter, music is interesting. My daughter loves Motown from the 60s.
Yeah,
that's good kid music. That translates. So
it's upbeat, it's happy, it's clean.
It kind of, if you watch a movie today, like Guardians of the Galaxy, it's all Motown from the 60s. So certain things do translate. But these sitcoms, Pete is 100% right. I'll bet you if we sat down and watched any of these episodes, like MASH or Jeffersons, we wouldn't even understand half the references.
Maybe not. 855-212-4227. So I guess you can't compare sitcoms like we compare athletes in different eras.
It is in my eyes, no.
Yeah, but Will Chamberlain always gets shortchanged. We're like, he dominated a bunch of plumbers and firemen.
Right.
So, Yeah, like Klinger dressing up as a woman, like I just don't think that's going to be as hysterical to people as it was. Actually, it might be quite controversial now. I didn't even think about that.
Is it more controversial now or then?
Yeah.
Don't answer that.
It wasn't controversial then. When everybody loved Klinger was Jamie Farr. Anyone remember him? Oh, he was wildly popular. Huge back in the day. Battle Network stars, Jamie Farr would be great.
I think things that get under appreciated is the writing on these shows.
Right.
I think the writing was so much better back in the 80s and the 70s and even the early 90s. Now I don't think it's as good.
But okay, now like 2024.
Yeah, I don't think the writing is as good.
But I think the writing has shifted.
Or are the great writers doing sitcoms? Like, are they moved to different things? Prestige TV or whatever.
There's only one area of great comedy writing on TV, and that's insurance ads, right? the progressive ads is don't become your parents. That's where all the comedy writers they work for Geico.
Right.
I don't even know. Are there sitcoms anymore?
They went from SNL and from sitcoms over to insurance ads.
Now they're just doing Mahomes and Auto.
I thought of you yesterday. There's a new progressive ad. I saw it last night. Don't be your parents, where I think he says, all right, just don't go to a party. They're hosting a party. Don't talk about weather and traffic. Don't talk about weather and traffic. And you since the day we met, you're like, oh, don't get Perloff started on weather or traffic.
That's why I started calling you sad dad.
Yeah. So like his, that guy who tells you how to not become your parents. Like, if you host a party, do not talk about what the traffic was to get here. Like, how was I-5 on the way over? I was like, ooh. It's really
a valid question.
It's like catnip for Perloff.
Oh, those
traffic and weather.
Yeah, I do honestly
together on the 8s.
The number one most comedy writing is either Geico, Progressive, like the cable. I don't even know. Like Pete's exactly right.
Thank you.
Man, you're right about that. Andrew Bogusch is here with that. Oh, speaking of writers, we're going to have actually an incredible writer, director, producer on our show later today. He's probably been and produced or written one of your favorite movies or documentaries throughout time.
Yeah.
His name's Mark Monroe, and he's a 2-time Oscar winner and multiple Emmy time winner, and he is the new director of a 4-part series about Pete Rose called Charlie Hustle.
This looks so interesting. Pete Rose is a big deal where I'm from in Philadelphia. Set the hit record there. Talk about an athlete, Pete, who does not translate to my. Can you imagine? What if Pete Rose was around today? Like just the way he acted. As a
person.
What if he was around as a current athlete? Like
I gave Joe DiMaggio a shower.
If that happened today,
honestly, that's even not the biggest thing from that interview. Yes. Anyway.
Yeah. If you had Pete Rose today, it would be such a phenomenon to see him like every day out there. Like he would. Oh my God, he was the biggest instigator, just wild man to ever like be in baseball.
Like if he was the manager of like the Arizona Diamondbacks right now.
If he was out there, he'd be like, you have all these guys with analytics, and he would take out a shortstop so hard you wouldn't even know he would be diving and throwing himself around the field. Like he was a gigantic superstar as a player, and I think people lose sight of that.
He'd also be making in-game bets on his phone, standing on second base.
Watch the trailer.
What can I get on the odds I need to score right now?
Yeah.
He's going from second to third on like a triple or something. He starts diving about 7 feet away from third base, and like hits his face so hard into the dirt, and there's not even a guy there. He's just like, I am going to. He was a kamikaze on the field.
It's true. When he was diving into third, it almost felt like it looked like he was diving into a pool. It's like, but that's dirt, man.
And totally unnecessary. But that was so Pete Rose. And
if only that was his story.
Oh,
the baseball is a big part, but it's not
totally. But the way that he got in that gambling stuff, like he played like that too. He was on edge all the time.
A lot there.
And the big thing with him, I think, is more of the lying about it than the actual gambling.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he had an opportunity to not lie.
To come clean. And he held on to the lie and held on to it. And then there's been some other subsequent things because he was on his way to this great broadcasting career. Let's not forget. It was him and A-Rod together on the Fox set with Kevin Burkhardt and our pal CJ Nikowski. And that was a fun group. That was like good chemistry. And then some things came out about his past and more things came out about him with an underage girl and he had to get removed from Fox.
What year was that? I don't remember that at all.
That was pre-COVID, I think.
But right pre-COVID.
Right.
Like
but you said he was on his way to on his way to a great broadcaster, he must have been 74 at the time that happened.
But he was a novelty. I mean, him talking about baseball is very
He was
interesting.
very good on that.
He is,
set.
and he and A-Rod were good together. Anyway, I know it sounds crazy, but it was true. We watched it. Let's talk to Big Easy. He's our pal. Where else? New Orleans. Big Easy, what's going on today, sir?
Good morning. I just want to talk about the generational gap. Gen X is always going to remember things that are out of the 80s, shows that are out of the 80s versus the 90s. I don't think you can use a lot of the 80s shows. Archie Bunker would never last 10 minutes in today's time. It's just a generational thing, and I thought a lot of the shows out of the 80s was really, really good. Some of the best I can remember. But they're not going to hold up today because it just doesn't work. Not in today's time, you know. And I just feel like I understand your argument about that. I don't know. I just feel like that there's a lot of shows that just couldn't be on today because of race and so forth. There's a lot involved. I love your show. I just want to say I love your show. I haven't called you in a while, but I'm still listening every day.
Oh, great.
So,
thank you, Big Easy. We feel you out there. Don't be a stranger. You're always welcome on the show, and thank you for calling in. If you're just tuning in, what he's talking about is we're doing the sitcom bracket, where we're trying to find the greatest sitcom of all time, and we're talking about what holds up versus doesn't hold up throughout different eras. And I asked, are sitcoms kind of like the argument we make with athletes? We always say a great athlete could have played in any era. You know, Will Chamberlain could have played today. Could Bill Russell have played today? Could
Babe Ruth hit a 93-mile-per-hour splinter from Paul Skeens?
Right. Would Johnny Unitas be able to, walk in and be the starting quarterback for the Colts? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And shouldn't we hold sitcoms to the same standard? If you're a great sitcom, shouldn't you be funny in 1989 and funny in 2024?
Right. I think Big Easy's point too was that there was All in the Family could make brave choices about humor, which you're not. A lot of people think you're not allowed to make anymore.
Right.
Like you couldn't do Archie Bunker. Right. You can do it a little bit in cartoon form. South Park and Family Guy can do it.
Simpsons, yeah.
And Simpsons. I mean, really, South Park is as brave as they get. But it's funny, people accept it in cartoon. I was thinking about could Blanche be such a
sex pot?
Yeah. Could you have Blanche?
Could you have Blanche?
Could Blanche throw it around like she used to back on Golden Girls? I'm not sure you could have that character.
The episode where Zach Wilson shows up, it's like, whoa, that is
I just
on
think
the nose.
It's a really good point that certainly there were different, there were different standards back then. You could be a little braver in some things. Now,
Isn't
I don't
that ironic, though?
Yeah.
You'd think you'd be able to be braver now.
Well, that's the thing about comedy. It's like,
oh, I know. I get it.
It's quote unquote cancel culture.
You know what the weird thing is? I know All in the Family, I actually think you could do a lot of what they did now, except for his interaction with George.
Yeah, no, but he had that interaction on several levels, like with different people.
Yeah,
you couldn't do that plot.
Yeah, you couldn't do that. I think you could do more than you think with All in the Family.
Yeah, I mean, because some of the things that when we're brave, they were wrong in retrospect,
right?
And they shouldn't. And I'm not speaking just about this show.
Yeah,
I get that we can be oversensitive sometimes too, but there were a lot of things that we shouldn't have laughed at 15, 25, 35 years ago. And it's good that we're not doing some of those things.
Well, right, but All in the Family was bringing that up to paradise. Like, they were trying to make a point. Like,
I'm not talking specifically about that show.
Well, I was thinking it's Married with Children. Could you do that today? Maybe not.
Well, that's where this conversation started because Married with Children upset Modern Family in this bracket, so we were surprised by that.
I think
or Perloff wasn't. I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but I think Married with Children, to me, it's edgy, but it never offended me. You know, like Married with Children, like All in the Family could be offensive.
Right.
At certain points.
Right. There's also, I think we're forgetting, too, that you maybe don't do it on ABC anymore, but there are shows that are on HBO and that are funny and edgy and brave. They're just not on regular TV anymore. I think the bigger sitcom thing is it just doesn't play on network television anymore.
Right.
Like, there are funny shows, like It's Always Sunny is on season
FX.
1.
But they bury them on FX.
Right, but it
put them in
exists.
cartoon. Yeah, I know. Always Sunny, the crap they get away with it's stunning. You know, one thing, even MASH, a show like MASH, Like you played that song, that's called Suicide is Painless. Couldn't have that. Couldn't have people in the Army who hated the Army. Like you couldn't do MASH now. There's no way. It's like a 10-year run of how awful the U.S. Army was. You think that would play today?
I do not.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It's definitely a different time. I'm not sure. Yeah, I agree with that call. You just can't do the same things. If you do, it's in some niche show.
You know, I have a question,
Right.
and forgive me because I don't know the answer to this, and I have to do my own research on it. But you know, I remember in the 80s, like with Nancy Reagan wanting to put the warning label on rap albums and stuff like that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
now politicians definitely get involved with our pop culture choices, and like these shows would become politicized, is why you couldn't do it.
Definitely.
Were politicians fighting these same battles back in the 70s? Forgive me, I just don't know. I was born in 1983, so I remember parental advisory, on music albums. That was a big deal to me. But I don't know if politicians were getting into these culture wars back in the 70s.
My guess is that they had bigger issues to fry.
Well, when was the whole George Carlin thing? Well,
that was that late 70s?
Yeah, so I guess it would be the 70s.
Well, didn't Nancy Reagan show up on Facts of Life and tell us not to do drugs?
Right. That was the 80s.
That was very famous. So, yeah, that might be their form of the culture wars.
Right.
That's a great question. I don't remember it being like this.
They were not doing it in the 90s, though.
I don't think politicians were doing that in the 90s. I don't think so.
The 90s, it was go-go 90s.
Late
Anything
90s.
went.
Yeah,
there was an early 90s like blast of political correctness, and it went away. Just like I think the two early 2020s, I think there was a blast of political correctness. These things are cyclical.
Ebb and flow.
Yeah, they're ebb and flow.
It's actually kind of, it's like you had the Clinton controversies that were going on with him and
getting impeached,
and Monica Lewinsky and whatnot. And how the whole culture was on television was kind of like mirrored each other a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. I think 9/11 just was a complete game changer in so many ways
agree.
too. Like the level of what you were talking about and like what was serious changed to some degree. Like there was a long time where that was in the minds, I think, of creators, right? Like you had to be sensitive to a different set of
The
topics.
edge came off a little bit.
Yeah, don't you remember like shows maybe in the 90s it seemed like anything went, as I recall.
It did. I mean,
Married with Children started in the 90s, yeah.
Look at late 90s when I watched pro wrestling. It was
very different.
Very
Here we
different.
are.
The Attitude Era.
I'll say something a little
But
controversial.
that was also very misogynistic too. That stuff you can't do.
I mean, I think 2020 was just a complete mark in time too.
Absolutely.
There's pre-2020 shows. For example, like Modern Family, really, I got some criticism. Didn't really have any black characters at all in it. That was from 2010 to 2020, where that became something that people noticed.
Yeah, right.
And the COVID as well. Like, yeah,
everything did change. But
really
I just wasn't sure if back in the 70s if there were culture wars, like politicians were getting involved in these culture war things with our entertainment.
Well, I think America voted for Nixon to get rid of the hippies. So is that a culture war?
Yeah.
Those darn hippies.
Trying to get through the Vietnam War, trying to then you have the whole Watergate. I think there was a lot of other stuff that was just on their plate.
I bet you it was there, Maggie, and had a different form.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. No, that's a really interesting point, though.
I mean, comics used to get arrested or like taken off stage for
Yeah,
things
Lenny
too.
Bruce.
So like that came from somebody.
Yeah, that's true.
That wasn't out of nowhere.
Decency laws and things like that. No doubt. 855-212-4227. Let's get to some headlines.
And that's all sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote at progressive.com. 2 is the magic number right now in round 1 of the Open Championship at Royal Troon. Alex Noren, Nick Højgaard, and Justin Rose all in the clubhouse. 2 under 69s. There are 5 other golfers still on the course on that number. So altogether, an 8-way tie for the lead right now. That does not include Rory McIlroy. He is 2 over through 8 holes. And Bryson DeChambeau, the U.S. Open champ, 6 over through 9. Things get busy in the 9 a.m. Eastern hour with Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Scotty Scheffler, and Tiger Woods all teeing off. There are worse ways to enter the All-Star/Olympic break. Caitlin Clark setting the WNBA single-game assist record with 19 of them last night in Dallas, but the Fever lost to the Wings 101-93. Clark's team, a disappointing 11-15 overall.
For me, it's kind of frustrating. Like, I feel like we've left 2 games out there that are very winnable for us going into the break, whether the Mystics at home and then obviously this one. And then we've won other matchups that are really tough for us. The Lynx on the road, Mercury on the road, Mercury at home, Liberty at home. And you lose 2 that probably you should have won, especially the one at home versus the Mystics. So for me, that's frustrating.
Clark also scored 24 last night, so she was involved in a single-game record 66 points. There is some bad news in the basketball world this morning. Pat Williams passing away at 84. He helped start the Magic in the late 80s, serving as the team's GM and then senior VP. I don't think I knew this. Maybe I forgot it. Williams was the GM of the title-winning 83 Sixers.
A huge figure in Philadelphia. Everyone knew Pat Williams. Like,
Yeah,
he was a famous guy. He's a character, too. What was a character, famously. I saw, was he the guy? He was in that Magic documentary, right?
I
the
believe
30
so,
for 30.
yeah.
Yeah. Really interesting guy.
He's probably the unofficial world record holder in sports radio interviews as well. He is. He was a guest all the time.
Such a nice man.
Yes. Said yes to everything, would talk about anything, wrote books. I mean, he's probably been on this network 50 times.
He's probably been in the studio a bunch of times.
Pat
too.
Williams, you guys all got to hang with him? Wow. Yeah, big legend in Philadelphia.
That is actually
Yeah.
would be a funny tally, not to turn the page too quickly from Pat Williams passing away, but who actually holds the record for most radio interviews? Because I think it has to be like Charles Barkley now.
Altogether, yeah, but here it might be Ross Tucker. Ross can be
Peter
on
King
3 shows
comes
in a
on
day.
quite a lot.
Yeah. Ross Tucker, we almost have to take him out of the competition. Like,
I feel
we're
like he's a
fighting for
host.
second.
In the competition after him.
Jordan Love might be the next QB to get paid. At the moment, he'll hit the open market next offseason. Love recently at a charity event ahead of Packers training camp, and a local reporter tried to sneak in a contract question.
Brian Goodwin says he hopes to have a contract extension done with you before the start of camp. Do you wish the same?
Sorry, no. All right. News to come. Sorry,
The nope, no thanks. That came from somebody on Love's team, not him himself. He was
Peter
mostly laughing and smiling the whole time. But someone in there does say news to come. So maybe we're on the verge of an announcement from the Packers.
Yeah, it feels like this is very low drama for what could be. Is this going to set a record? Is Jordan Love going to reset the market?
I think it's symbolically, and I lost a bet over this. I think symbolically they have to go a little bit lower because they don't want to put that pressure as the highest paid quarterback. So if there's a choice where he's at the same
I don't
number,
think
like
that's what Jordan Love's thinking about.
No,
He's
I don't
thinking,
think-
I
I
waited
don't
3
think-
years for my opportunity yet.
if they're sitting at the number is 54, 55, I'll bet you they would go under that. Just to be like, oh, we don't want to put that pressure of him being the highest paid quarterback. Like the whole part of it. So I'll bet you he goes under Trevor Lawrence.
Huh. I
think
think
he'll
that
go
Jordan Love would
over?
probably be fine with this pressure. Like, he wants to get paid, right?
Well, I'm talking about we're talking like $1.5 million. Like, yeah, I know it's all symbolism at that point. What Joe Burrow wanted to be 0.2. At that point, like, quarterbacks always say, "Oh, just give me 100,000 more than that guy." I don't think he's doing that. Do you think he'll be the highest? I'll bet you he's number 2 or 3.
I'm not sure. I don't see why he wouldn't be. I mean, they know him better than any quarterback at this point of giving them this big contract, right? I mean,
What do you mean? Like,
well-
he's definitely less accomplished than these other big contract guys.
no, but he's been in the building. Like, there's no question marks. Denver gives Russell Wilson this massive contract extension. They barely knew the guy before he got into the building.
Right, but Love's only had half a season of success. Right. I mean, he's definitely. I don't know who are the other highest paid quarterback.
Burrow and Herbert.
Yeah, those guys have done way more than Jordan Love.
I get
obviously.
it, but again,
And Trevor, right?
Yeah, Trevor didn't break the record.
He might be on more of the higher end just with how the money's going to go. Like
As
the
far as
money-
average
money's
annual.
going up.
Yeah.
The
I think so,
cap's
too.
going up. Yeah, I just think just by that.
I don't want to do a bet with you where I have to eat chili with no hands. I don't want to do that.
We should have to buy steaks.
But I do think it's going to be a pretty big contract. Bogusch, thank you so much. Look at the time. We've got to just take a quick step away. We come back and we are breaking down the AFC East today, team by team. We do that next.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Peter Bellotti, he's a man of many tastes, but he He's got a debt, and it's not going to waste. Andrew Bogusch is waiting. He's been oh so kind for that well-seasoned steak. It's been on his mind. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak. Oh yes he does. Well seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. Andrew Bogusch's been patient, but he's starting to drool, thinking about that steak. Oh, it's making him cool. Peter Bellotti, don't delay. It's time to make amends. Cook up that steak, and they'll be the best of friends. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak. Oh yes he does. Well seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. A dash of salt, a pinch of pepper, garlic and herbs, oh it couldn't get better. Sizzle on the grill, make it medium rare. Peter Bellotti, show Andrew you care. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak. Oh yes he does. Well seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. So let's end this saga with a juicy bite. Andrew Bogusch and Peter Bellotti, friends under the night. With a steak well cooked, this story's complete. Peter Bellotti, your debt is now sweet. Peter Bellotti owes him to bake that steak. Peter Bellotti's world, it's always a Tom Hanks scene. From Big to Castaway, he's the fan club dean. In his living room, it's a movie marathon with Tom on the screen from dusk till dawn. Oh, Peter Bellotti loves Tom Hanks. It's a serious thing. From Forrest Gump to Sully, he makes his heart sing. Quotes every line, knows every part. Tom Hanks isn't just an actor, he's a piece of his heart. Whether it's Woody or Captain Phillips at the helm, Peter Bellotti's collection's overwhelming, a cinematic realm. Saving Private Ryan or dancing on a giant keyboard, each film a treasure deeply adored. When life gets tough and the days are long, Peter Bellotti turns to Tom's films where he feels he belongs. A laugh, a cry, or a heartfelt sigh. In Hank's stories, time just flies by. Peter Bellotti loves Tom Hanks. It's a serious thing. From the terminal to Apollo 13, he makes his heart sing. Quotes every line, knows every part. Tom Hanks isn't just an actor, he's a piece of his heart.
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff live right now at Maggie and Pearl on X. You can vote. The MASH region of the Maggie and Perloff Sitcom Bracket second round is live. So go there and vote as we are trying to determine the greatest sitcom of all time. It's been, a big undertaking, one that we sprinted towards because we wanted to do this kind of thing. But obviously, we're running into some controversy. Let's go to Bergie is in Florida. Good morning, Bergie.
Good morning. Thanks for a great show every day. Yeah, I think one of the things ties into what you were talking about, the distinctions between those shows that could be aired in past decades and now, is you don't get the benefit now of exposing like a show like a character like Archie Bunker, of course, could never be allowed. But what he did was expose really important social issues that people could then, see he was kind of this, in a way, this likable fool, and you could see, though, the flaws in his character and his beliefs, and because it was out there for everyone to see. If it's hidden because either network executives or others are afraid to put it on, then you don't get the benefit exposing those issues to the broader society in a big way like it was back then.
Berg, it's a great point.
Yep.
I mean, Archie Bunker was just the vehicle, right, to start these conversations that needed to be had in society, and it was done in this in a smart way where he's the foil, right? And you can put all of your your hang-ups, hypocrisies, whatever, everything that he embodied made you look at yourself.
Yeah,
right?
that's a great. Bergie explained it really well. Except that there was this one thing at the end of the day, you loved Archie Bunker, you knew Archie Bunker. Where now, like, he kind of had like a positive turn in some of the episodes. I'm not sure you'd be allowed to do that, but yeah, I mean, Bergie, like, you at the end of the day, you liked Archie Bunker. I don't think a show you're allowed to do that anymore, right?
Yeah, but you don't like all of them. So that it's, in other words, it's acceptable enough to expose the bad things in order to deal with them.
You know, Bergie, who the heir apparent is? Cartman on South Park. He is the most odious human being, and he brings up all these conversations because he says what the most evil people are thinking, and you still kind of like him.
Yeah, remember another thing back then, and I grew up in that era, there were three stations. So, I mean, the whole country was watching the most popular shows, and things are so divided now with how many platforms there are that while there are very popular things, the audiences then as a percentage of the population were so huge.
You're so right, Bergie. Great points all around. Great to hear from you. Thank you. We talk about that sometimes when we're doing the show. We're on coast to coast, and we hit so many different parts of the country. We'll talk about a TV show, and then you'll see, 1 million people watch that. It's like, that's nothing. It's these shows now that are quote unquote big are not nearly what they were back then.
Absolutely right. The numbers don't compare at all.
Yeah, like we talked about MASH. Like MASH is in this region. The MASH finale, the Cheers finale. These were watched by as many people who watched the Super Bowl. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thursday night, I remember, I'm plenty old enough to remember when that was a thing. Like, you would couldn't miss Thursday night at NBC. I mean, you've had versions of that, right?
Not only that, my older brother taped over a very important family event with an episode of Seinfeld. My mom was livid.
Well done.
I mean, she never got too mad at us about anything, but she was not happy about this. Basically, we go to tune in to like a very important family moment, and it's, Elaine going yada, yada, yada.
Oh.
I told you about the bisque.
Well, worth it.
I don't know. I think the party that, the videotape of the party that was taped over, I think probably cost my parents quite a bit. So I think they wanted that memory. And now instead, we've got no soup for you. So awesome.
It's another memory.
So are we talking wedding?
No, it's another family thing.
Okay.
But it was important, and it definitely got taped over with Seinfeld. Unforgivable. Oh, my brother. So we've left ourselves absolutely no time to talk about Davante Adams or the Miami Dolphins here. I'll give you my quick take on the Miami Dolphins. I'm not doing it justice with enough time. I think they're a playoff team. This is going to be one of the you and I don't agrees all season long.
Yeah, I mean, my quick take would be that defense is in trouble. They were top 10 last year. That ain't not happening. They lost Wilkins. They lost Van Ginkel. Ramsey's older. Everybody who's good is coming off a major, major injury, right? Like Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Like, I think that they got to worry about that unit. And Fangio's gone. I know they didn't like him.
They didn't like him, though. It wasn't a good fit.
But not liking him is not necessarily doesn't mean he's not good. And they were good. The defense was good last year. They didn't play anybody, but that's a unit I worry about.
Yeah, I guess, but I'm wondering if there's like holes the better than the sum of the parts, and what you see at the beginning of the season might not be what you see at the end of the season with that defense. So when the weather's getting a little bit colder and when things need to tighten up a little bit more, are you good at, because like, don't forget, the offenses always take a little bit to get going in the NFL. It's always really smart to bet unders really early in the season because the defenses almost are ahead of the offenses in many respects. And I think as the season goes on, the Dolphins defense could gel together. But you and I are just going to disagree. Okay, coming up, lots more to do. We'll have Coach Jeff Fisher scheduled to appear in studio next hour. We have Davante Adams. Let's do it. We've been talking about it. Let's get to his comments on his future in Las Vegas.
Teddy Bridgewater, Vic Fangio.
He's a man of many tastes, but he's got a debt, and it's not going to waste. Andrew Bogusch is waiting, he's been oh so kind for that well-seasoned steak. It's been on his mind. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well-seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. Andrew Bogusch's been patient, but he's starting to drool, thinking about that steak. Oh, it's making him cool. Peter Bellotti, don't delay. It's time to make amends. Cook up that steak, and they'll be the best of friends. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well, seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. A dash of salt, a pinch of pepper, garlic and herbs, oh it couldn't get better. Sizzle on the grill, make it medium rare. Peter Bellotti, show Andrew you care. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well, seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. So let's end this saga with a juicy bite. Andrew Bogusch and Peter Bellotti, friends under the night. With a steak well cooked, this story's complete. Peter Bellotti, your debt is now sweet. Peter Bellotti owes steak. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. A dash of salt, a pinch of pepper, garlic and herbs, oh it couldn't get better. Sizzle on the grill, make it medium rare. Peter Bellotti, show Andrew you care. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. So let's end this saga with a juicy bite. Andrew Bogusch and Peter Bellotti, friends under the night. With a steak well cooked, this story's complete. Peter Bellotti, your debt is now sweet.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say thank you for being a friend. Thank you for
45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Perloff, Davante Adams has been waiting his whole life for someone to finally ask him, hey, what do you think about all this? Welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. The dude is a natural. So he's obviously the subject of this Netflix series called Receiver, where we find out just how bad things were behind the scenes last year with the Raiders. Now he's doing interviews all over the place, including with Shannon Sharp, the Club Shay Shay podcast, which I know you're a big fan of, as am I. Let's hear a little of Davante Adams, because all the rumors are swirling now about whether or not he would want to team back up with Aaron Rodgers. So here's Davante Adams saying he would welcome a reunion with Rodgers if it were to happen.
If I'm gonna be reunited with anybody, it would be Aaron.
Okay.
But or be, relocated and be anywhere, it would be with Aaron.
Okay, moving on. Davante Adams says he is locked in with the Raiders, but he admits the thought of playing with Rodgers is enticing.
I'm actively on the Raiders.
Right.
What do I look like sitting here talking to other people about being on another team?
Right.
And that's how I still feel about it right now. Like, I'm locked in with the Raiders, and I really feel good about this team. As far as I know, they feel good about me. And if that ever changed, if that got to a point where they weren't feeling the same way, I ain't done playing. So obviously we would figure out whatever we needed to figure out. But the thought of playing with Aaron is obviously amazing.
Okay, so it's tough, right? Because he's saying, on one hand, like, I am a Raider, I don't want to leave. Yet at the other hand, saying it would be amazing if I could team up with Aaron Rodgers. Like, here's the thing about Davante Adams. I don't think he's like, I'm not mad at it, if you will. Like, I don't think he's doing anything necessarily wrong. I just don't think he's turning down the volume on this. If he really wanted to put all this away and just like, hey, Shannon, like, love you, not answering questions about it. I'm a Raider. And even just bringing up Rodgers there and saying how great it would be to play with him another time, I feel like just keeps this story at a simmer, nearing a boil, where you could actually turn down the heat on this if you just came out and said, I'm not talking about, Aaron Rodgers, not my quarterback. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are my quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, but he did say I'm a Raider. I kind of think he was doing a little bit of that, right? He had some of that energy.
Yeah, he did. He's like, I'm a Raider. It'd be weird for me to be talking about another team. On the other hand, yes, it would be amazing to play with Aaron Rodgers again. It's like,
to me, that feels almost like a harmless comment in the sense that, like, any receiver would want to play with Aaron Rodgers. It was like, yeah, of course I'd like to play with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'd love to play with Patrick Mahomes. It felt like a little bit like, I think he did bring down the temperature a little bit, his tone and everything he's saying. And obviously, behind the scenes, like, his agents came out publicly and said there's never been any trade talk, and and then the team says there's no trade talk. Like, we have no interest in trading him. Like, they keep hammering that home behind the scenes. So that's quieting the noise a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, right. Well, I meant behind the scenes. It's like the agent and the team. They keep on getting out there via all the insiders. Like, there's no trade happening. They keep saying that. So that, I think there is an effort to quiet the noise as well.
I guess here's the question.
Yeah.
If this is really so far-fetched, and there really is no talks of this, and there's nothing there's no smoke, there's no fire, all of this is just complete and utter speculation, why do the agents even come out and say anything? There's rumors all the time. There's a rumor going around right now that Davante Adams could get traded for Brandon Ayuk. Like, there's silly stuff that happens all over the league, and agents and GMs and players don't respond to every last thing. So if you could have also just ignored this if you're his agents. The idea that you did come out and say it kind of makes me think that, I don't know, is it a little doth protest too much? Or maybe Davante Adams is worried that this is going to impact the locker room or something like that. Like, it's not nothing, right? It's either They even think it's risen to the level that it had to be dealt with. And then he goes on Shannon Sharp's podcast and is talking about how amazing it is to play with Aaron Rodgers when you have no great quarterbacks, pardon me, on your own roster.
So let me ask you, do you think there'll be a trade?
I still think it's possible. I really do. I still think it's possible. I also think that there's another part of this, which is Aaron Rodgers' influence on the New York Jets, which I think is massive. I really do. And it's beyond just signing Alan Lazard and, some of the other guys. I think that he has the direct ear to all the important decision makers. And I think he's more than just like another player on the team, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't think so?
Well, no, I just think that Boomer Esiason, our cohort here, said there might be a trade in August or September. To me, that feels unlikely. I feel like, at the trade deadline, maybe. But honestly, I don't think the noise is quite as heavy as you do because he should have been traded last year's trade deadline, too. He seems to be sticky to Las Vegas for some reason. And even these comments, I kind of said, I'm kind of resigned to being here. He's like, I'm a Raider for now. Well, I don't know. It just feels like all logic says he should be traded, and yet he wasn't traded last year. Maybe the same sort of defying logic thing happens again. I wouldn't be shocked.
One of the things he said to Shannon Sharp, we're talking about Davante Adams, who was on Shannon Sharp's podcast, talking about his career and his life and, wanting to play with Aaron Rodgers again, but claiming I'm a Raider, I'm a Raider for now type stuff. One thing he did say, though, he said, I'm not trying to skate around the U.S. trying to find a new home. So if you're asking, why wasn't he traded last year? No, when things were really bad with Josh McDaniels and the offense was bad and he's out there being, Jimmy Garoppolo is basically hanging him out to dry, which is what we saw in receiver in terms of on the field, putting him in harm's way, where there's a line where he's mic'd up in a game. He goes, I'm going to lose my life if I keep playing like this because Garoppolo is essentially leading him into these massive hits. And Davante even said it to Shannon Sharp. He goes, I'm in the blue tent now trying to convince the doctors that I can go back into the game because they just saw me in a massive collision. That's not what Aaron Rodgers was like to play with. Rodgers will try to lead you to a safe place to catch the ball, quote unquote safe. I do think that there's this idea that he doesn't want to be looked at as the bus rider maybe, or a Kevin Durant type thing, or trying to this label that guys get if you're going to multiple teams. And I think that does play a part in it, right? When he says, I'm not trying to skate around the U.S. to try to find a new home. Maybe he feels like he's above that.
You would know more. I'm not sure. Is that really a big issue for Kevin Durant and Davante Adams are such different things, right?
But you know what I mean?
He's never been the singular star in any sense. I feel like, no, I mean, for both him and Max Crosby, if they wanted to leave, nobody's going to fault them, right? Because it's different than Durant joining the Warriors.
No, I think he's finally coming to grips with that, Davante Adams, a bit. I think maybe he didn't want to seem like somebody who's always just looking to get out and do the other to be looking for the greener pastures and not feeling like they're committing to the team they're at.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's in ways the anti-Kevin Durant, because he left a great team to go to a bad team.
Yeah, he talks about that too, Davante Adams. It was kind of interesting. Him talking about, if I knew then what I know now about Jordan Love, obviously I would have stayed, he said, or I would have been much more open to staying in Green Bay. He's like, but you can't live your life with regrets like that. And then he
I'm
said,
a little dubious about that comment. It seemed like he was hell-bent on getting to Vegas.
Well, he wanted to go with Derek Carr, right? And then the other part, he said that Green Bay does. This is what he said about Jordan Love and why he couldn't see the potential that he had, or this high ceiling that he had. He said that in Green Bay specifically, they don't give the backup a lot of burn because they are concerned about how it would impact the starter. So what Davante Adams is alleging is that they were not showcasing Jordan Love behind the scenes or giving him really meaningful reps in practice as a courtesy to Aaron Rodgers.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thought that was interesting. All right, let's go to the phones. 855-212-4227. Braden is in Colorado. Wants to talk about Davante. What's up, Braden?
How y'all doing?
We're great, man. What's up?
Not a lot. Hey, I just wanted to give my opinion on this Davante Adams thing. I think there's a couple things at play. Number one, when he's on that Club Shay Shay podcast, not a super great look for him to be up there and probably speak a little bit more what's actually in his mind about, he's not a huge fan of it there. They're not competitive. They're not projected to be competitive. And he wants to go somewhere else right now, right? He's got to still try to be a good teammate, one of the leaders in the locker room, and say that, he is where he is. He thinks they have a good team, all those things. But, from the other end, Perloff was saying it just makes a lot of sense for a trade to happen. But I don't know. I mean, Raiders gave up a hole to get him, and they've got a brand new stadium that they're trying to continue to sell tickets to put butts in seats right now. And I don't think it makes a lot of sense right now, from the Raiders' perspective. And maybe they get to a point later this year by the trade deadline or in this upcoming off season where, they feel like they got a little bit enough of ROI on it. But that's my take on it. Appreciate the time and enjoy listening to you guys every morning.
Oh, Braden, thanks so much. I mean, if I were the Raiders, I'm trying to do everything I possibly can to find my next quarterback. Who is this person? How am I acquiring this person? And is it going to happen through the draft? Is it going to happen through free agency? Like, what is the plan? And if trading Davante Adams gets me draft capital that's closer to that goal of finding my next franchise quarterback, I got to do it.
Yeah, but the Raiders don't follow the normal logic of things.
That's fair. You're welcome to weigh in on Davante Adams at 855-212-4227. Okay. The Maggie Perloff Sitcom Bracket. Live and in your face. No. The MASH region, round 2, has been released. You can go vote at Maggie and Pearl. We got into a conversation just about sitcoms in general. Should a sitcom be ageless? Does it need to be ageless to be great? Much like a professional athlete, the great ones, the elite ones, we say, could have played in any era. Could Y.A. Tittle could have played in any era, Perloff, and Bill Russell could have played in any era. Will Chamberlain could have played in any era. If you're an all-time great sitcom, should you be funny in 1985 as you are in 2025? That's the question. Charles is in Maine, has a thought on it. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning. First point, and respectfully I say this, it was Tipper Gore and not Nancy Reagan that wanted to slap warning labels on Two Live Crew and on Twisted Sister and those other albums.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Tipper Gore? I thought it was Nancy Reagan. Apologies.
Nancy Reagan's all about just say no, right?
Oh, yes. Nancy Reagan was just say no, war on drugs. Got it.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember those commercials where they had a frying egg saying, "This is your brain on drugs."
Oh, yeah.
I think they're still playing those, by the way. It was effective.
Yeah. Well, as a teenager in the mid-'80s, that was scary.
Yeah.
But it was Tipper Gore, and she founded the Parents Advisory Council, which went around and upset Dee Snider and Luke Skywalker, or whatever his name was, from Two Live Crew.
Yeah, Dr. Luke, right? Uncle Luke, Uncle Luke.
Wanted to, Luther something was his real name. But I also
Luther
remember
Campbell.
when Luther Campbell, thank you. When Murphy Brown had a baby out of wedlock, and Dan Quayle made a huge deal out of that in 1992, and some people say that was one of the several things that turned the 1992 election in Clinton's favor, that was as tone deaf as it was at the time.
Yeah, rule number 1, you don't go after Murphy Brown in an election.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah, I also remember I was in law school when this happened, when Lewinsky and Clinton got impeached over the Lewinsky situation, and Letterman and Leno were vicious in going after Monica Lewinsky. And these days, we really seem to be reconsidering, that through a different prism, a different lens, and looking at it. And there are documentaries out and things that revisit that era, and but why we were not looking at that from the right end of the telescope, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only other thing, sorry, go ahead.
No, I get the Monica Lewinsky has now become like the poster child for bullying. She's like, I was the first person who was like cyberbullied, and beyond that, and how she, was, how young she was. She was like 22 when she was an intern of the White House. I mean, she was really young.
Yeah, and here is an honest-to-God, hand-to-God true story. I was in law school. I went to Georgetown Law at the end of the 90s, and Monica Lewinsky was invited to come and speak to one of my classes as a guest speaker. And she sat on the desk and kicked her feet up and chewed bubble gum. She was 23 at the time. It was amazing. It was surreal. And Ken Starr spoke to the same class, so...
Wait,
sign
what?
of the times.
Wait.
Honest to God.
She was brought in to speak to your Georgetown Law School class about what? About the scandal?
Well, I took a class that was called Impeachments.
Oh.
And
okay.
And the professor, who was a Dartmouth classmate of mine, which put me to shame, brought in Ken Starr himself. He brought in Monica Lewinsky. He brought in Brett Kavanaugh before Brett Kavanaugh was Brett Kavanaugh. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I'm telling you, I swear to God. And then finally, speaking of that, if you will indulge me for one more second, I would love to hear from Mr. Perloff which fraternity he was in at Dartmouth, because I'm guessing it was either Phi Delta or Alpha Chi.
No, you're wrong. Jake Tapper, Alpha Chi. I was Theta Delta Chi, the Boom Boom Lodge.
Wait a minute,
Theta
what?
Delta, oh my God, I should have gotten that. I'm sorry. Theta, yeah, Boom Boom. I should have gotten that. I forgot about that one. My bad.
Yeah, no,
I was a
cool.
Chi Gap myself.
What in the world is the Boom Boom Lodge, and why are we only hearing about it now?
So,
ask him about the winter carnival parties those guys used to have.
By the way, you're right. I have Alpha Chi written all over me, Charles. That's a very astute observation.
Charles, thank you. This is the most highfalutin conversation we've ever had.
My nickname, or the nickname for my fraternity, was the Boom Boom Lodge. Now, the story is amazing.
Okay.
There used to be train tracks where the fraternity house was. And 1920 something, there was some bootleggers were running from Johnny Law, and I guess the police caught up to them right near this building and shot the bootleggers, like famous, like a big story.
Oh, wow.
And that's where Boom Boom came from, because there were these shots fired, and that's how somehow it became known as the Boom Boom Lodge. That's the legend. Because bootleggers got shot. Dartmouth's a really old place. Like Robert Frost was there in 1925 or something. So that's the legend. That's why it's called the Boom Boom Lodge. No other reason.
Wow, that is not the origin story I thought we were going to hear.
By the way, 99% chance it was totally made up. But that's like, oh yeah, that's where the bootleggers got shot. That's a good one.
Wow, so you're a T-Del, huh?
So there's one very
means.
super famous fraternity there. The Animal House fraternity was based at Dartmouth, and it was Alpha Delta, and that's a pretty cool place. That's actually the exact building that the whole movie was based on. It was on the other side of campus. It's like a historic. There should be a shrine there, Maggie.
Wow. Well, I mean, did you quit when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
That actually happened in Dartmouth's campus. That's Dartmouth's ultimate claim to fame: unionizing men's basketball and Animal House.
855-212-4227. Don't get calls like that every day, so thank you, Charles in Maine. Coming up, we do have Coach Jeff Fisher's in the house, so we're going to sit down and talk with a guy who spent 4 decades in the NFL, player and coach. It's awesome. We get to pick his brain. We'll do that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, a lot going on here, Maggie and Perloff. I'm already getting accused of trying to juice up the vote on the Sitcom Bracket. We're doing the greatest Sitcom Bracket ever, and I asked all of Philadelphia and Rob McElhenney to retweet it so Always Sunny can beat All in the Family.
Oh, my God.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Collusion.
It's not working. I think I actually hurt my own causes. All in the Family seems to be running away with that. But you could go to @MaggieandPearl to vote. We're waiting. Jeff Fisher will be here soon. There is a lot going on, but go vote, please.
Maggie and Pearl on X. Dominic is in San Francisco as a thought on TV sitcoms and the criteria for the bracket and maybe how we made this thing. What's up, Dom?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for taking my call. Go Niners. Definitely this year. Still, it's still dark here. I just finished making my coffee. Does a sitcom need a laugh track to be considered a sitcom?
Fantastic question. One that we mulled over many, many times. We ultimately decided on no, because there are TV shows in this bracket that don't have sitcoms, like 30 Rock and The Office.
They don't have laugh tracks.
Excuse me, laugh tracks.
Right.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Office, 30 Rock, Parks and Recreation, those kind of shows.
Curb, obviously. So
Modern Family and Young Sheldon as well.
Dominic, I would argue the form of sitcom has evolved so much, and you got to be able to evolve with it. Like it used to be like one room and 2 cameras or something, and now it's like Curb Your Enthusiasm or things that are shot like a movie. I argued, what do you think of it? I said Atlanta is a sitcom, and everyone said, oh, that's not quite a traditional format. The thing is, sitcoms change through the years, so I think like we always have to think about them in their own time.
Mm-hmm.
So Modern Families like Jordan and Leave It to Beaver would be like Bob Cousy.
Exactly.
Modern Family more like LeBron, and Cheers is more like Jordan.
And I'd vote for Leave It to Beaver then.
Okay. Leave It to Beaver is koozie for sure. Yeah, like Kuzi dribbling around with his right hand all the time. Like, that's basically what a sitcom used to be.
But it's the foundation, It laid the
Yeah.
foundation. You wouldn't have Michael Jordan if you didn't have Bob Cousy in some respects, right? It's like you have to pay homage to the people who came before you. Maybe Jordan would have always been okay, but
You wouldn't have Michael Jordan if you didn't have Mr. and Mrs. Jordan. But I still
also fair.
believe it to Beaver.
Dominic, thank you so much. Enjoy that first cup of Joe.
This is an old joke from the Dan Patrick Show, but if Bob Cousy did not use his left hand dribbling and he just had one hand behind his back, was dribbling around in circles, like he would never get away with that.
You couldn't play AAU with that.
Yeah. But then again, the other thing too is like basketball, like those old timey guys would have learned how to shoot in AAU actually, and they would have 3-point shots. Michael Jordan would have had a 3-point shot. So people would adjust. Sitcoms would adjust.
I think so. Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines for us this morning. What's going on in the world?
There's golf. The British Open. We are deep into round 1 at Royal Troon. Justin Thomas in the clubhouse in the lead, a 3-under 68 for him. He is 1 shot clear of the field at the moment. Justin Rose among those done at 2 under. Maverick McNeely, who by that name should be everybody's favorite, is 2 under through 10 this morning. As for some of the...
Can I just, by the way, I'm sorry, when you're done with that, I have an observation. I have some golf analysis.
No, please.
That course is a freaking nightmare. Have you guys seen, Rory just hit it into like the wild jungle of England. I can't believe that. I know, like the weeds are like, can you get a gardener at this course?
But one-legged Tiger's going to win. Rory, by the way, is 5 over through 11. A little better than Bryson DeChambeau, who is +6 through 12 holes. We still have not had guys tee off, some big-name guys, including Tiger, Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, all start teeing off after 9 a.m. Eastern. The 5th time was the charm for Bronny James, 12 points in the first 2 threes of his summer league career in the Lakers' 87-86 win over the Hawks last night, easily his best performance so far this month.
Just trying to forget about all the shots I missed, forget about all the games we lost. Just come out, play my game and try to do my best every time I come on the court. So that's what I did tonight, and it ended up well.
That's Bronny on ESPN. This win, by the way, the first for the Lakers this summer. Now, Bronny was destined to be a Laker with his dad, but the Suns were always connected to him pre-draft as the only other possible landing spot. Owner Matt Ishbia swears that was legit.
We thought it might be a good fit here in Phoenix. Obviously, the Lakers drafted him. I wish him the best, but we feel good. Like, people want to come here. We want Phoenix to be a destination for the Mercury, for the Suns, for the players, like for fans. Like, we want it to be a destination. So when people want to play for us or want to be part of our organization, whether it's free agents, whether it's rookies, it feels great.
Man, I thought I talk fast. Slow down a little, dude. But the other part is, if you're a Suns fan, how do you look at Matt Ishbia and be like, no, we got the right person in place? And I know Robert Sarver was no picnic because clearly he was a bad guy, got removed as owner, was, there was no love lost, Perloff, between him and the fan base. But there's no way Ishbia is going to be a success here, right? He's got...
Well, I can't.
He's got Isaiah Thomas in his ear.
Well,
he seems like he'll chase any shiny object. Bronny, come on. I know Bronny just had a good game, but that just makes me think even more you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the early returns are not good. Like, if you're reading, like, already are Beal and Booker and Durant going to stay together? He's going to make more knee-jerk reactions to stuff. Yeah, I'm with you. This is not going to go well.
If I was every other GM or owner in the league, I'd be like, if we need to fleece anybody out of anything, please call Phoenix. Like, hey, who's the new guy? Like, let's take advantage of this dude because he is ripe.
Caitlin Clark scored or assisted on a WNBA record 66 points in last night's 101-93 loss in Dallas. She scored 24 and had a single game record 19 assists. The previous assist mark was 18, done twice by current Liberty guard Courtney Vandersloot. Diana Taurasi was part of 65 points in a game way back in 2006. Tuesday night's MLB All-Star Game on Fox drew 7.443 million viewers. That is a 6% increase from last summer, but last summer was the least watched All-Star Game ever, so this makes this year's edition the second least watched MLB All-Star Game ever. And a quick, but I still think I need to triple check this, 7.44 mil is still a big number, and I think it's still better than other All-Star game numbers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's down in general, but that's still a lot of people watching, and in comparison to the other sports, it's a good number.
How many people watch a World Series game? Probably kind of close.
Fair
to that.
question.
To be honest, baseball still has the best All-Star game because
Yes.
guys actually try.
Right.
You know, you can't. Paul Skeens didn't mail it in and throw a meatball to Aaron Judge.
Right,
you know?
or like wasn't doing like behind the back pitches or anything like
Right.
weird. Like it's
Right.
exact. You can only play baseball.
Right. I mean, if they could just fix those uniforms, maybe they get up to 8.
And a quick men's college basketball note. Pitt and head coach Jeff Capel agreeing to a 3-year extension yesterday. It runs through the 29-30 season. Capel's the reigning ACC coach of the year after a surprising third-place finish. He is 97 and 92 total over 6 years with those Panthers. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thank you. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and Jeff Fisher's going to be here. Does it smell like something's burning in here?
More so than usual?
Okay. I'm going to go investigate that during the break. Come on back. It's Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Okay, so it's not often we get to pick the brain of somebody who has this much experience coaching, playing in the NFL, and that is the one and only Jeff Fisher, who is now the interim commissioner of the Arena Football League. Coach, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, we'll get into the arena stuff in a second because you guys have your championship game coming up on Friday at this very impressive mall in suburban New Jersey called American Dream. It's also going to be aired on CBS Sports Network. The championship between the Albany Firebirds and the Billings Outlaws is Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also go to theafl.com if you're in the area and you want to buy tickets. How you kind of got into the AFL Arena Football League is a whole story within itself. But you and Perloff were just reminiscing quickly about this famous the Fog game.
Yeah,
The Fog Bowl in
Fog
Chicago.
Bowl.
I'm a lifelong Eagles fan. I recently watched a documentary on NFL Network about the Fog Bowl. And honestly, I think it's one of those stories where you're a young fan, you wouldn't believe it's true. Because this playoff game between the Bears and the Eagles, you couldn't see 4 feet in front of you. That's what it looked like on TV. You were there as an assistant on the Eagles. Was it really like that in life?
You could not see from the sideline, as from a coaching perspective, you couldn't see the painted numbers on the field.
Wow.
So you couldn't see the huddle. You couldn't see the hash. You couldn't see the other sideline. You couldn't communicate to anybody upstairs. But I don't know what they showed. But the first half, it was sunny. It was balmy. I mean, it was a great game. It was setting up with a really good game. And we got Jim McMahon on one side and Randall Cunningham on the other. And we got Reggie White. And you got this competition and this matchup between Buddy Ryan, who had left, and, the Bears, and Mike Ditka. And we came out after halftime and we're putting the headsets on and getting ready for the third quarter. And we got a game and the crowd starts roaring. And I'm kind of looking around going, what's going on? And then Wade Phillips, you remember the name? Wade said,
Yes.
Oh, damn. And we looked back and the fog was literally just pouring into Soldier Field. And it didn't take but 5 minutes to get in there to where you couldn't see anything. So now we got to play. So how are you going to go about playing that? Well, first things come to mind, you got to protect your edges, right? From, because we can't see what's going on the other sideline. And Wade Phillips was up in the box, and I was communicating with him. And I said, what do you see? What do you see? He goes, dang, he goes, I think they just ran for 20 yards, And then the officials would work their way down. And unfortunately, I mean, it stayed that way for most of the rest of the game. And the Eagles lost that ball game.
Why didn't they just call the game, postpone the game, and wait till the fog to go away?
The officials said that they would, provided that you there was if you can't see, he said, if you can see the goalpost from midfield from either side, then we're going to continue to play the game. And I go, well, you can't see the goalpost. I can't. And I said, and the other thing is, you couldn't even see the illuminated play clock.
Wow.
Remember, Soldier Field's got that low wall back there, and the play clock was right behind, down on the ground. You couldn't even see the illuminated play clock. So thanks for bringing that up.
Well, I tell Maggie the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl that year if it wasn't for the fog.
Yeah, you're right. He says that all the time. But, Jeff Fisher is here with us in studio, Coach Jeff Fisher, of course. I am one of these people. I know the Fog Bowl and the Ice Bowl and these legendary games are awesome. I just wish every team would play in a dome. And I don't know if that's sacrilegious or not, but I think if you had perfect conditions or close to it, we don't have this great legendary story about the Fog Bowl, but don't you think as a coach, wouldn't the competition be so much more even and fair?
Like the Arena League.
Well, but traditionally, how was this game? I mean, there's still traditionalists and people, passionate people, and our founders. This game was designed to be played outside. And so there's a school of thought. Now you get the combination, the best of both worlds, where we just close roof, if the weather gets bad. But what's better than a fall afternoon? On Sunday, the leaves are turning, the wind's blowing, you can smell the smoke in the air, you smell the tailgating, and you're outside. I mean, that's fall. That's football.
But I know you went to USC. Are you Californian? Like the cold games, though, if you're Aaron Rodgers, I can't imagine, do you really want to play in the Green Bays and the Minnesotas and the Chicago's outside or Tua? Yes, I feel like warm weather natives don't love that cold weather.
I played in Chicago. That same field we're talking about. And I remember my first years, my rookie year, going in after warm-ups, and I saw a guy pouring Gatorade into cups behind the bench. So we're going to the locker room for 12 minutes, right, and coming back out and kicking it off. And I just noticed that, who's going to drink that? Didn't make much sense to me. Came back out and it already started to freeze.
Yeah, of course.
So it was different. Yeah, and you didn't have the gloves back then, and you didn't have the ability to layer up. Guys had big, but you know what you did? You just sucked it up and you just played. On top of that, we never had warm water in the showers at Soldier Field after those cold games.
Oh, no. I mean, Maggie's a Buffalo Bills fan. She's a Western New York native, so she gets it too.
Coach, you just being in here is kind of giving me this weird sort of, I don't use this term lightly, this weird kind of PTSD because
okay. You're a little shell-shocked.
You are responsible. It's like
you?
the fact that you're actually sitting here across from me is like, it's kind of weird. Like my childhood me. I mean, that really was a seminal moment. Of course, I'm talking about the Music City Miracle because Coach Jeff Fisher is here. He's now the interim, I'm not trying to change the subject, but he's now the interim commissioner of the Arena Football League. And it's a thing you kind of backed into from what I can tell, becoming the commissioner, that is the interim commissioner. The championship game is this Friday, 5:30 Eastern time. You can watch it on CBS Sports Network. Albany, the Firebirds against the Billings Outlaws. You can go to theafl.com to get tickets and get more information. I'm going to skirt the conversation away from this for a second, away from the Music City Miracle for a second. Describe to us what's going on with the championship game. There may have been some rumors that this thing was going to get postponed or that it was going to maybe be canceled. We weren't really sure if this was going to happen. Explain to us what's going on with this championship.
It's been an ongoing effort. The whole entire season. So let me get back around real quick. I was approached in Nashville. They're going to bring the Cats back, and the AFL's coming back. It's 2.0, and they had all these lofty goals and expectations, and the previous administration didn't produce, and so you had 16 teams to start with, 12 of which that tried to start the season, but everybody was having difficulties. And so this game is a really cool game. I didn't know much about it. Obviously been on the outdoor world and on the 11 against 11, but the Nashville Cats were a big item in Nashville when we were making our run in Tennessee, and I was asked to come in and help, so I did. And in an effort to give back to Nashville. A huge fan base there and everything. And I'm just all about, as we all do, we give back. And Nashville blessed my family beyond imagination, and I wanted to do something. And so I got involved. And then shortly thereafter, I found myself as the interim commissioner because things weren't going well. So to me, this is an exciting matchup. It's a 1 seed against the 2 seed, Albany and Billings. We've pulled it off. But there's a group of owners that are representing teams all over the country. There's 8 of them here. That really worked so hard together to pull the season off, despite the difficulties and the roadblocks and things like that. So they found a way. I mean, you want to define resilience, that's it. And so this is an exciting moment for me, is for these owners and for this fan bases in these smaller markets, because it's the only game in town in some of these towns. And so you've got tradition and you've got second generation players playing in these markets. And I personally, my experience, really close friends come to the first game, never been to an indoor football game before, and they're still talking about it. It's like, oh my God, it's so cool. I mean, and I mentioned this earlier, and I keep going back to this, but Albany had a game against West Texas 7-8 weeks ago, and Albany was trailing by 11 points with 11 seconds left to go in the game and won. That's cool. I mean, it's so cool, the scoring and everything that it touches. It's touching the officiating department and the kids, and so we got a group, the remaining ownership group, together, and we were determined, and we were scheduling ourselves, playing ourselves, taking care of everybody else at the same time. Somebody needs something, we would, you buy the hotel, all that stuff. But here we are. So tomorrow afternoon, 5:30. And the good part about what we're going is we've been honored to partner with CBS Sports, and they're going to show it, and it's going to be really cool. So
awesome.
Jeff Fisher is here with us. The coach is in studio now, the interim commissioner of the Arena Football League. So that's really exciting. Tapping into your experience as a coach, right? I mean, you guys were talking about the Fog Bowl and these great memories, and there's so many huge games that you were a part of, and obviously none's going to be bigger than the Super Bowl. And it was such a fantastic game. Obviously, that last second moment, I mean, it didn't go your way, but gave us all as football fans this incredible game that lived forever. I'm curious if you can give us a window into what Kyle Shanahan might be feeling now, because he has come down to the wire in 2 Super Bowls where he was the head coach, 1 Super Bowl where he was the offensive coordinator, obviously in Atlanta, and these have been just near misses. And you experience this. How, as a coach, do you ever get past this? Like, can you imagine what Shanahan is going through multiple times?
No, I can imagine. I appreciate, and I pull for him. His father and I were on staff together with the 49ers. We were good friends, and so I watched Kyle grow up. I watched him develop, and I stayed out, but watched it. What does he do? He keeps going. He's surrounded himself with great people. He's, my career has afforded me, in the place I'm at, to be able to go out and help people, different leagues, and do these things. Eddie George, for example, the Alliance and the USFL and different things. And you reach out and help small college programs and deal with the NIL stuff and everything. But the point is that, offensive minds, regardless of the level, are all copying Kyle Shanahan.
Really?
And he's the guy. He's the, these offensive changes over the years and the gurus and whoever's doing the, who's running it. But he's going to get it done, and it's just a matter of time. They're built so well, and John and that ownership and that staff. I mean, it's going to happen. You just, things happen in ball games, and they just happen, and it's one ball game. I mean, 2 years ago, had they not had the quarterback injuries, they probably would have won it all this year. They stayed healthy for the most part at that position, but you couldn't find a way to win the game that was most important.
Maggie and I had an interesting discussion earlier in this week. Can a Brock Purdy beat a Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl? Like, at the end of the day, is he going to be a good enough quarterback to beat one of these AFC superstar quarterbacks? You might go up against a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes. Can a guy like Brock Purdy knock them off? If you go to a quarterback battle in the Super Bowl, is he good enough?
Yes, he can do it. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's a team thing. But he can do it. He's equipped to do it. He's got all the talent. Now, I know he's going to run around like Patrick did early. Pat did early in his career for Andy, but he's going to make plays. He understands. The connection, this is the cool thing to watch, is the connection between Andy and Pat and their brains, and then, Purdy and Kyle.
So it's not just a matter of arm talent and things like that. It's up here.
Yeah. I mean, there was some stuff. I mean, I've been out for a few years now, obviously, but one of the most impressive things since bringing up quarterback play that I've ever seen by a quarterback was when Baker had got to the Rams on Tuesday or Wednesday and had a couple of days of practice and executed a 98-yard, 2-minute drive to win a big game. And he had just showed up. That's an impressive feat. If you think about it, if you really think about it, He was in other programs, and now, he and Sean's communication and communication and terminologies is the same, and is recalled there. And 98-yard drive against an NFL caliber, really good defense in a 2-minute drive. That shows you what's required mentally to play that position. Brock has that.
Jeff Fisher is here with us in studio. Of course, the longtime NFL head coach is now the interim commissioner for the Arena Football League. Their championship is coming up this Friday, 5:30. You can watch it on CBS Sports Network. Obviously, defensive player your whole life, and stopping Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what would you do?
Well, I mean, obviously, you have to address. You got to pay attention to the weapons that they have. I mean, that's Patrick Mahomes is going to do something with the football. You're going to be able to handle their run game. You got a nightmare matchup for anybody on defense with respect to Travis and, the tight end position, and then those guys that can run around down the field and make the plays. So, I mean, Andy, I thought this was one of Andy's better years this year, particularly what he decided to do late in the season. He goes, you know what? We're going to change and we're going to run the football. And he did it towards the end of the season. I mean, you watch them from when they started to where they ended the regular season, then pushed through the playoffs. It was all that. He realized that without the run game on offense, that they have no chance. And he changed. He committed to it. I mean, and that's a hard thing to do. Not that anybody's going to pose what Andy's going to do, but that's a hard thing for anybody to do, is completely change your philosophy. He did that. But, there's some good players out there right now, and Patrick is certainly really fun to watch.
So, Coach, you were on the competition committee in the NFL. What do you think of the new kickoff rule? Do you like it, and you think it will have a huge impact?
I think we have to wait and see. Did they vote it in for a year, or they voted in permanently? Because when they vote them in for a year, then they're going to evaluate them and then vote them in permanently. But we saw the same basic philosophy in the USFL. You're basically you're changing the kickoff, and you're turning it. You actually created another punt, is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So guys are. On the punt return, you got guys stepping in, engaging, turning, running, walling off. You don't have all those big collisions down the field. So be interesting to see how the kickers adjust and try to place balls down the field. But they want to eliminate the long distance, high impact collisions, which is smart. It's all in the interest of player safety. Have to see how it worked. It was I experienced it for a year in the USFL, and I thought it was good.
Coach Jeff Fisher is here, though. So we just have a couple more minutes with you. We've been talking a lot of NFL because obviously you were a head coach in the NFL from 1994 to 2016. You have so much experience, but you are also, legendary USC player. What do you think about USC joining the Big Ten?
It's hard to imagine. I mean, when I was there, one year it was 97 or 77. Half the Pac-8 went on probation, and I think there was like a Pac-4 or Pac-6 left because nobody could play a bowl game. But to watch them, it'll be really interesting. I'm
Do you
disappointed.
like the move?
I like the Pac-10 and the Pac-8, 10, 12, whatever you want to call it, tradition on the West Coast. It was good football, and just to see what's happened to it, but. Lincoln's, he's got to replace a good quarterback, and we'll see how they do. But it'll be interesting to see. Tradition, history, it all goes up in the air when you're talking about NIL.
Real quick, we're running out of time. You're a great coach. You're walking around with Peter Schwartz today, who's working with the Arena Football League. He weighs 320, I think, 6'4". Could you turn him into an NFL offensive lineman? He's standing right there. I mean, do you think you have the skill to transform Peter Schwartz into an NFL player?
You're going to have to take him down the hall, see if he can bend over and look between his legs. Okay.
That's a no.
And if he can, then he needs to do some short snapping. But the rest of the game itself, no. I mean, if he's got quick hands, I mean, you put him at center, he's got one hand on the ball, it's hard to protect yourself.
Coach Jeff Fisher, let me just reiterate that the Arena League Football Championship is Friday, 5:30 Eastern, CBS Sports Network. It's the Albany Firebirds against the Billings Outlaws, Billings, Montana, obviously. You can go to theafl.com if you want tickets and more information. We could have talked to you all day, Coach. Thank you so much for being available.
And thanks for having me.
Good luck,
Appreciate it.
The
Have a great
interim
summer.
commissioner of the Arena Football League. Again, thank you. Okay, Maggie and Perloff, we move on after this to talk about Alabama. First season under head coach Kalen DeBoer. What's the right expectation for the Tide? I'll tell you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Kalen DeBoer meeting the media at SEC Media Days. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. So the expectations, Perloff, with Kalen DeBoer taking over a very talented Alabama team, but yet you go from Nick Saban to anyone knew there was going to be a level of difficulty and a high degree of difficulty because he's just not the other guy. You know, the bar has been set so completely high. But you and I have talked about this. How much of a grace period does Kalen DeBoer get as he now takes over for a legend?
I don't think Alabama has to do Nick Saban Alabama things this year. Like, with a 12-team playoff, it's different. He'll probably make the playoffs, but say it was Final Four, and Alabama to make the Final Four, I don't think anyone's ripping Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, but it's 12 now, so it is different.
Yeah, and he'll probably make it because of that. I just think Alabama used to be championship or bust under Nick Saban. I don't think that's the energy at all. I mean, and if it is, that's completely unfair. Is anyone saying they're going to give him at least, I think, 2 years, but they're definitely giving him 1 year. There's no real pressure here.
I think you're right, but I think it's going to be very short-lived. You know, I think you basically get a year. If they somehow miss the college football playoff, though, again, with 12 teams, I think you are going to have a swath of Alabama fans, and I don't think they're going to keep quiet about how disappointed they are, considering this is still a team that has a Heisman hopeful in Jalen Milroe.
Right.
I know that Nick Saban was not picking Alabama to win the SEC because he said there are some issues in the secondary. Okay, well, let's not pretend like those can't be fixed or those, that Kalen DeBoer can't, coach up the young guys that he has in that secondary. So I think to me, he does get I'm actually going to say it. I think if they miss the college football playoff, I think it's going to be considered disappointing, especially because here's the other thing about DeBoer. He's won everywhere he's gone. That's part of the reason why he has gotten this job. And he is coming off of an appearance in the national championship game. Beyond that, what he did with Michael Penix, making him this dual threat quarterback that he was at Indiana, going to Washington, becoming this elite thrower, 8th overall pick in the NFL draft. I think they're hoping that magic translate to Jalen Milroe because Milroe in some ways you could kind of compare him to a young Michael Penix in that way.
Oh, I don't
a
see
young
them.
Michael Penix.
I don't. They're very dissimilar players, I think. But the thing about it, though, is Alabama had this run under Saban where they were number one for how many years? Like preseason number one. They were always preseason 1, 2, maybe 3. There's just and this year they'll probably be preseason 6, 7, 8. So I just think the level of expectation, for obvious reasons, they first of all they got hurt by the draft like they always do. Well, other teams did, but Georgia didn't really get hit by this year's draft like they had been. And they lost some transfers. I mean, and they brought in some guys, but overall, I definitely think they took some hits when Saban left. So you're getting a little bit worse where your competition is getting better. I mean, this is a stacked SEC. That's the other thing, too. I just think last year was a bit of probably a down year. This year is not. This year, everybody came back, and not everybody came back for Alabama. I feel like, this is going to be tough. I think I'd be shocked if they ran the table here and were like normal Nick Saban, Alabama. I really would be shocked. And I love Jalen Milroe. It's just the rest of the team. Guys go to the NFL. It happens. You lost your best offensive lineman. You lost your best cornerback. You lost safety. You lost your receiving core is kind of up and down. Like, I just think you have to look at the personnel here, Mag.
855-212-4227. You're welcome to weigh in on Alabama. So Tyler Booker, one of the players for Alabama, was responding when Nick Saban picked Georgia and Texas to meet in the SEC championship game. And I actually liked his response. It was, Nick Saban always told us, don't listen to anybody who's on the outside, right? And now he's on the outside. He's not in the facility, but he's, and all of that. He said, don't listen to someone who's in mom's basement tweeting things, that kind of stuff.
That's unfair.
He goes, and now he's somebody who just plays golf all day. And it was very tongue-in-cheek, and he was laughing as he says it. But if I was an Alabama player, I think I would actually, I don't know if I'd be motivated by this, but I would definitely take it personally if the guy who recruited me, assuming I'm somebody left over from the Saban era, if someone who recruited me and probably had been telling me, you are worthy of winning a national title, right? Like, if you do everything right, you're going to be right there. All of a sudden, that guy, just because now he's in the media, turns around and just says, okay, now I don't think you're going to be part of the SEC championship game, or saying, I think I would feel a way about that. I think it's human nature, right?
I think these guys are aware enough of what's going on here. Like, Nick Saban couldn't, his first year in the media, if he went in and went against logic and put Alabama as the top team in the SEC, I think it would, like, they understand, like, Saban couldn't do that. Like,
you think he would have lost credibility?
He would have lost credibility,
He's Nick Saban.
and they know that. And I think, but I think the players know that. And we would have lost credibility. Like, honestly, obviously, he's picking Georgia. I mean, like, you'd be nuts not to pick Georgia, right? I think everybody, it'll be 100% across the board will pick Georgia. Right, they're like sort of the NFL team of college football right now. So if he went against the grain and picked Alabama, that would be so weird. I think the players understand this, right? Like, yes, you might be offended because he recruited you, but you have to understand that he's in a new role now. And honestly, I don't think they want that. They don't want Nick Saban picking Alabama. They'll be like, then everyone's going to be like, oh, look, like your media, you got media love just from your former coach, and that's kind of fraud-like. I think, and also it's bulletin board material. They'll use it for their own good. You know that too, Mag. This is good. I'm psyched if I'm a player. I'm like, yes, that guy recruited me. I'm going to show him. 855-212-4227. You're welcome to weigh in on the pressure on Kalen DeBoer. Do you see it this year? If they don't make the 12-team college football playoff, would that be a disappointment? I say yes. Perloff says no. No.
I'm sorry.
If they're not a top 5 team, that's not a disappointment. 12-team is everybody makes it in a sense.
Yeah, they have to make the 12-team
you have
playoff,
to understand,
right?
Like, Alabama has not been out of the top 6 in this will be the lowest ranked season they've had in a long, except for maybe they had one off year recently. But this is going to be the worst season they had probably since Saban peaked. Is that fair to say? So, and I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed.
So schedule, not easy. We'll see what happens week 3 at Wisconsin. That's just sort of an interesting one. Then the next week, you don't want to overlook that, though, because the next week you're playing Georgia. And you are also at Tennessee. You have Mizzou. You're at LSU, obviously. And then at Oklahoma, of course, you end the season with the Iron Bowl. It could be worse, but this is a lot. There's some heavy hitters here. So you're welcome to weigh in, as I said, on Alabama. We had this conversation yesterday, and I'm curious to get y'all's take on it, which is Kirby Smart the face of college football? Right? As college football coaches. Remember we were talking about this yesterday. Like, you just mentioned it. Everyone's going to be picking Georgia. They're like an NFL team in college. They're so stacked. He's won 2 national titles. But yet, if you ask me which coach is the face of college football, much like Nick Saban was for years, I don't know if it's Kirby Smart.
No. Kirby is definitely under the radar. He's just not very, he doesn't have a ton of personality. So I think he's the best coach. I think he's the highest paid coach. He's right around there. But no, he's definitely not the face. The face was Saban. And then Harbaugh was this little shining star for a couple years after he finally beat Ohio State. Right now, I don't know who it is. There's a void, kind of like college basketball. And after Coach K stepped down, there was nobody. Then now it's Bobby Hurley. There's definitely a void right now.
Well, isn't it obviously Deion Sanders?
No, it's not obvious because Deion's a different category. Because they're not competing for a title. So, no, I don't think so. I don't think Deion Sanders is the face of college football. Deion Sanders is the face of Deion Sanders.
Fair.
Yeah.
Here's how I would take it, right?
Was Deion Sanders a face when Nick Saban was there? No, of course not.
No, but that's who was Nick Saban doing the commercials with?
Yeah.
Deion. So I think about this when a coach really has a gripe against the sport, right? Who could actually go to the media and like make waves about this? When coaches complain and when they want to take this sort of leadership role of like, hey, I'll step out and take the slings and arrows because I'm going to say this, that, and the other thing. Nick Saban used to do that kind of thing. I feel like Deion would get obviously the most reaction, the most publicity. So maybe he steps up and he sort of becomes the most, I don't know. He's definitely the most notable, but
well, yeah, but I
the
think
most influential.
Saban before Saban won all those titles was not the face of college football. Don't you have to win titles to get this sort of thing we're talking about?
Well, then wouldn't Kirby Smart obviously be the guy? Or Dabo, who's
no,
won
but that's
that.
the thing. Like you have to be a combination of personality and winning. So Coach K had all the. Coach K was interesting. A lot of people didn't like him. And he won titles. Where I don't think Roy Williams, who also won titles, was ever the face of college basketball. I think he's more in that Roy Williams category. I mean, there's potential superstars. If Lane Kiffin wins, I mean, he is dynamic.
Got a good team this year at Ole Miss.
Yeah. And I think I think Brian Kelly is probably more recognizable because he was at Notre Dame, which is so popular. I think there are actually 4 or 5 coaches. You mentioned Deion is certainly more recognizable. Dan Lanning, I'm not sure quite nationally. Like if Dan Lanning walked into the room, I'm not sure everybody knows who he is. He's kind of generic looking. Kirby's also quite generic looking. Like you got to stand out, Maggie. Like who stands out amongst this group? Lane does for a bunch of reasons.
Well, Lane's almost he's famous, infamous in some circles because he had some very famous exits.
Yeah, I don't think people
Tennessee,
know Kalen
USC,
DeBoer. I don't
Raiders.
think Kalen DeBoer is a household name or a household face. I think Kalen DeBoer could walk into a lot of rooms. People wouldn't know he was there.
855-212-4227. The expectations on Alabama. Oh, look who it is. It's the one and only. It's Big Dave in Kentucky. Hey, Dave.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. The Warden, what's happening?
My question going into this debate, listening to you guys talk. First question, very important question. How many SEC teams do you see getting into the 12-team playoff?
6. Well, I mean, listen, there's no-brainers. Georgia, right? Then Texas has a great chance because their schedule's easy. Then Alabama has a great chance because Alabama will always get the committee. Missouri has a great chance because they're really good. And Ole Miss because everybody came back. So that's 5. And then there's 2 or 3 other like competitive teams, right? What do you think, Dave?
Well, let me tell you why your theory is wrong, Clevin, because we eat our own in the SEC.
Yeah.
There's no way 6 teams are getting in. There's just absolutely no way. I would say there's a lock for 3, probably 4. But if you go down the list and look, you guys are pretty much, or McLevin at least, is pretty much guaranteeing Bama to get in. Listen,
you
got Georgia, you got Texas, you got LSU, you got Ole Miss, you got Missouri. Tennessee's kind of an outlier.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a lock. I don't think it's a lock that they get in. I really don't.
Yeah.
Dave, here's a question though. Here's our question. Would it be disappointing? It might not be a lock, but do you think the Alabama fans will be disappointed if they don't make the 12-team playoff in DeBoer's first year?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Alabama fans, as a fan base, will be disappointed if they don't win the national title.
Right.
But
Even with a new coach.
Even with a new coach. But also, listen, when's the last time, tell me again, when the last time was that Bama won the national championship?
Bob Mac Jones, right?
2021, right? What year was that?
Right. Yeah. Who was coaching the last 3 years?
Saban, and didn't win. Yeah.
Exactly.
I get it.
And here's the thing. It's not realistic. Fans are not realistic. The Alabama football fan base is like our basketball fan base up here in Kentucky. You can't bring rational thinking into the equation because it doesn't work that way. But anyway, guys,
wait, Dave, real quick. You have to admit this is a particularly rich year in the SEC, though. Oh, right.
Give it a go.
Yeah, this is a star-loaded league this year. Like last year, it didn't seem like it was, but this year there's like Heisman candidates all over the map. Feels like they're you're right. I was stupid to say 6 because they will have a bunch of losses, but it feels like an SEC year to me.
Well, let's also think about it. How is this 12-team playoff structured?
Yes.
Right? You've got the 5 automatic bids, right? You got 4 from the power conferences and 1 from the group of 5. So that leaves 7 at-larges, and Notre Dame's getting in.
Well, yeah, probably.
So it just leaves 6, so it can't be 5 SEC teams.
Yeah, and then you have those extra Big Ten teams. Yeah, that's a problem. No, you're right. But I do think that it's going to be heavy this year. If you look at, I mean, and the odds are the Heisman has a great chance this year coming through there. It's going to be a killer conference. That eating their own thing, I heard an interesting thing that teams don't, we talked with Brett McMurphy yesterday, conferences don't want Florida State.
Right.
That teams are like, it's hard enough to win in the SEC. Why are you going to add a Florida State into the mix?
Yeah.
Like, and someone said on a podcast, like, bring in a bad team. Like, if you're a conference, like, don't bring in Florida State and Clemson. Bring in like a nerd school.
This is the problem, though. They want money more than anything.
Yeah.
The only way you get more money is when you get more interesting teams.
Right. But if you actually are a coach of a team, you're like, you know what? I'm good with not playing Clemson next year. Why don't you give me a new Vanderbilt?
Well, that was the other thing about when the SEC, they wanted to go to, you play 9 SEC teams on your schedule, and the coaches basically revolted because they're like, if you're not going to pay us way more money, we're not going to add another SEC team to the schedule. We want Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
No offense.
This is obviously a very key issue. I said 6 teams. Like, it's a chance there are 6 teams in the SEC good enough to make the final 12, but they will cannibalize each other. So the SEC is going to lobby and say, hey, 3 losses in the SEC is better than 1 loss in the Big 12. That's going to be fun.
Okay, coming up next, there's a new fun-ish, maybe fun isn't the way I should have phrased it. There's a new, very interesting and in-depth documentary series coming out, and it's about Pete Rose. Mark Monroe is a award-winning director, producer. He's done it all, won multiple Oscars. He's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour to talk about Pete Rose. If you're interested in that, stick around. Also, we've got plenty of football for you, including an overture to a legend to come out of retirement. Somebody wants somebody to come out of retirement and play quarterback for the Raiders. We'll tell you who it is next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining.
Tastes, but he's got a debt and it's not going to waste. Andrew Bogusch is waiting, he's been oh so kind for that well-seasoned steak. It's been on his mind. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak.
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Okay. All right, this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote today at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Okay, so ESPN is causing some controversy. Welcome back, Maggie Perloff. Yeah, so...
What'd Pat McAfee say now?
It's...
I'm just kidding.
They put out this top 100 list. That they had a panel of voters, top 100 athletes since 2000, something that we did on the show last summer.
Yeah, we did.
Way
I
to
wonder
go,
where they got
ESPN.
that idea.
Just a little taste of where their thinking was. Aaron Rodgers, 4-time NFL MVP, Super Bowl champion. He was 91 on the list. That is 7 spots ahead of Lauren Jackson, who never won a WNBA MVP, and 14 other WNBA players are ahead of Aaron Rodgers. That is not going over well. Alex Ovechkin is 54. So there are many, many, many WNBA players over him. Basically, the list is very strongly leaning towards women athletes in some people's opinions. Maggie, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm glad that women athletes are strongly represented here because, quite frankly, they've been underrepresented for a long time. Now, if you're asking me, did they go overboard and try to overcorrect here? I don't know. I got to look at the whole list.
Okay. Forget even the women athletes. Jason Kidd is 69 and Aaron Rodgers is 91. On what planet is Jason Kidd had a better century than Aaron Rodgers? That is insane.
Rodgers seemed a little low, and I was actually thinking about this.
A little low? It's insane. He should be top 10.
I was actually thinking about it from, this is the way my brain works. I'm like, man, the amount of content that Aaron Rodgers has provided ESPN, they should make him top 10 just for that.
Well, I mean, obviously voters were politically motivated on Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, he's going to claim that for sure.
Claim that? He's 91. This is obviously like if he didn't come out against...
The voters, they're not politically motivated. You really think that? I was joking.
Are you serious?
I was kidding.
It's very common sense. Aaron Rodgers is 91 because he came out against a vaccine. And there's
but we don't. But there's probably going to be other people on this list who have some, things in their past like that are way more controversial than Rodgers, and I bet they're higher. Are we going to be able to claim that? Is Floyd
No.
Mayweather on the list?
This is not even really a polarized. Like nobody's debating, is it political? Like 100% of people except for you apparently think it is.
Oh,
there's no way. Aaron Rodgers is 91 on this list.
No, but I'm asking you, are there other athletes? I know you're not Google here. You don't have the whole thing in front of you.
Floyd Mayweather. What is Floyd Mayweather's politics?
No, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about he went to prison. He was abusive to his wife, or girlfriend. I don't know who she was at the time, but like that kind of stuff. If you're gonna make this political or about more than just sports?
Well, political is different. I think there's criminal and political. Like what really gets these voters mad is political, right? Like basically, if you're not with their candidate, you're falling down on the list. I honestly would not. I'd be surprised. Like that's.
Do we know the politics of everyone who's in the top 10 though?
No, but if you were outspoken on one side and it's not the side of ESPN, then you probably would fall. I mean, and come on, what are you talking about? You watched ESPN in the last 10 years?
I understand what you're saying, and I understand that the bent is definitely more appears to be more liberal. But I ask you, are there people who are with conservative politics and values who are higher on this list than Rodgers? Because then the argument would fall short, right? Because there's got to be other athletes who are not vaccinated. Let's say it's that. Other athletes who are not vaccinated, like Lamar Jackson has never come out and said whether he's vaccinated. Josh Allen has never come out and said whether he's vaccinated.
Right, but they're not as vocal, Rodgers. Obviously, Djokovic might.
Right.
Might
Djokovic is another one.
But yeah, there are a lot of athletes, but it's so different with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is really in your face with your politics.
The other part that's disingenuous about that is that they give Rodgers free airtime on their network to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. So now, weirdly, they would penalize him on this list. Like they give him the platform of all platforms to just say whatever he wants.
Right, but what other explanation? Okay, in simple terms, explain to me, why do you think Aaron Rodgers is 91 on this list?
I have no idea, because the list is probably flawed and designed to get people mad.
Do you really think so? You think they dropped him to get people mad?
Maybe because, again, it doesn't add up. If they're giving, if this is ESPN's list of the top 100 athletes since the year 2000, and they have Aaron Rodgers on their air once a week during the NFL season to say whatever he wants to say, why would they penalize him on a list? They give him everything. They afford him every opportunity to say whatever he wants.
Yeah, my point is, I don't think there was any intent to make people mad. I just think that they had a group of people voting who don't like Aaron Rodgers' politics, and they dropped him. I mean, I think that's my assumption. You could be right. Yes, the different people than whoever made the decision to let him go on McAfee. I think, yeah, I mean, this is a panel and we did the same list. Here's our top 25, just to remind everybody.
This was last year.
Last year. LeBron 1, Brady 2, Tiger 3, Serena 4, and Messi 5. Now, ESPN in their article teased those are the 5 athletes we're considering for the top spot. So we were right on. We had they said
off of our work.
They said, yeah. They said, actually, you know what? I'm not sure they mentioned LeBron. They definitely said, it's got to be Tom Brady, right? Oh, wait about Serena. Wait about Tiger. So we were really close. I'm just thinking the one that struck me as weird, they had Peyton Manning at 26. We had him at 13. That seemed a little low to me. Where did we have? I don't see Aaron Rodgers on our list.
He's on there.
Okay.
Novak Djokovic is number 11 on this list, by the way.
Rodgers is 18 on our list.
And
okay.
Novak is Rodgers-esque in certain ways, where he has
Wait,
detractors.
You have 11?
What?
You said he's number 11?
Novak is number 11 on this top 100 list.
So we have the tops. You have the top 25, because I only got up to 25.
Yeah, no, they have the top 10 is right here.
Oh.
Top 10 was released this morning. You're not going to like number 1. I don't think you're going to agree with number 1 at all.
With Serena?
Nope.
Tiger?
Nope.
Messi?
Nope. Serena 2, Messi 3.
Is it Tom Brady?
Nope. Tom Brady is number 5.
Oh,
Tiger's number 8.
Oh, Simone Biles?
Simone Biles is number 7.
Whoa. Maggie,
who's number 1?
Number 1 is Wet.
Oh, Phelps?
Yep.
Oh.
Perloff's going to have a major issue with this.
Yeah, I'm calling out sick tomorrow.
Honestly, this is his one.
Why Michael Phelps?
Your war against swimming is
forget the political edge.
Well known, documented. You do not consider swimmers because how many people have access to a pool? That's generally your.
Yeah. Nobody knows how. So where's LeBron?
So the top 10 is Phelps, Serena, Messi, LeBron, Brady. That's 1 through 5. Federer, Biles, Tiger, Usain Bolt, and Kobe.
Got it. That's very similar. Maggie, we nailed it. We had Phelps 9, by the way. So we really basically did the same list. Very well done.
But we did it first. Andrew Bogusch has headlines for us. Thank you. How you doing?
Justin Thomas is still the clubhouse leader. Round 1 Open Championship at Royal Troon, a 368 for him, a one-shot lead over 6 other golfers, including Russell Henley, who is still on the course right now. Tiger Woods tees off roughly 10 minutes away. Also on the course, on the bad side of things, Bryson DeChambeau, Rory McIlroy, they are each 5 over par, nearing the end of their first round. In her last game before the All-Star break and not playing in the Olympics, Caitlin Clark dished out a WNBA single-game record 19 assists in the Fever's 101-93 loss in Dallas.
Especially with AB, I'm just looking to set her up so much. My eyes are just always on our post players, whether that's Liz or whether that's AB or whoever's in the game at the time, and then kind of look out from there.
AB's not me. It's Aaliyah Boston. She scored 28 last night. Clark had 24, so she was part of 66 points, another single-game record. Now, we have spent a lot of time discussing the NBA's new media rights deal, included new agreements for the WNBA. The league expected to get $220 million annually for 11 years. The current deal brings in $60 million a season, so $220 is a big increase, but Players Union exec Terry Jackson says the NBA is still undervaluing the W and wants to know how it got to that yearly figure of $220 million. Bronny James scored 12 points, 5 of 11 shooting, easily his best game of Summer League, and the Lakers got their first win of the month, 87-86, over the Hawks in Vegas. CFP Executive Director Rich Clark says no decisions will be made on future playoff formats until after this season plays out. The CFP's new TV deal with ESPN, which kicks in 2026, only calls for at least 12 teams in the field, so they do need to decide and maybe change how teams qualify and how the bracket is actually structured. 14-year-old Kevin Sullivan debuted for the Philadelphia Union at the end of last night's 5-1 rout of New England. He is 13 days younger than Freddie Adu when he made his first appearance for DC United 20 years ago. Sullivan is the youngest person to play in MLS, the NFL, NBA, WNBA, NHL, or Major League Baseball since at least 1970. Guys, back to you.
That's just crazy. 14 years old, and I remember what a phenom Freddie Adu was, and then it didn't turn out as well for him. He never lived up to the expectations. I'm curious about this young guy, and his brother's on the team too, and I think his brother scored.
His brother scored last night, but he's the special one, the younger one, of course.
I heard an interview with him yesterday, and they're like, "So what are your soccer goals?" He was asked on SportsCenter, and he goes, "Win the World Cup for the USA." I was like, "Keep that energy."
He's got time.
It's nice to be 14.
Little guy. Bogusch, thank you so much. Okay, coming up next, we're going to talk to an Oscar-winning and Emmy-winning director and producer. Got a new docuseries called Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. We're going to get to that in just a moment. It's Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Perloff. All right, this is exciting because no matter how much you know about the life of Pete Rose, there's still more to uncover, Perloff, and that's why he is the subject of a new 4-part documentary series, a docu-series. The director of it is Mark Monroe, who is a very accomplished filmmaker and documentarian, and he's good enough to join us now. If you want to watch the show, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on X. Mark, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations. It's called Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. Now, you have made a career out of chronicling some very, very famous people. Mm-hmm. What is the challenge of trying to bring something new when it's about such public figures and people that, you know, your audience is very familiar with?
Have you ever been around Pete Rose? Like that's a challenge in and of itself, I would say. Look, I think he's a fascinating character in our culture, in our sports universe, and you know, you look at the great characters in television today or in drama today. they're all pretty complicated, and I think he's out of that mold. So I jumped at the chance to try and figure out how to tell his story today. I think the drama lies in today, right? The stuff that happened on the field is amazing. We all know it if you're a baseball fan, and a lot of the scandal, right? That's been litigated, adjudicated. That's out there. I think a lot of the drama lies in today, and what do we do with these guys, right? He's an athlete who, you know, we love what he did on the field, and what he did off the field divides us, right? So as a fan, what are we supposed to do with these guys? I think that's really what I was trying to do.
But Mark, as a documentarian, and you have a character who you know is going to try and control the situation, is that a challenge to get Pete Rose to not try and dominate and get his message out? Because I've seen him do that act before.
Yeah, I think, you know, part of my job was to set the stakes and frame the film immedately. And I think we can all agree that Pete Rose is an unreliable narrator of his own story, right? He's the greatest, one of the greatest baseball players in history, the greatest hitter by the numbers, right? But he's also, you know, the other thing he's known for is lying. And so I think once you set that up, you know, in the opening kind of minutes of the film, and you make sure everyone understands that allows the audience to pull what they want from the film, and you're judging all the way. And I think people who are devoted Pete Rose fans, of which there are legion, right? There are millions, can watch this, as well as people who are very skeptical, and they can see what they want to see in it. You know, we tried to talk to people who were close to him, but who are not necessarily, you know, carrying the water for him. So I think that's really where as a storyteller, that's where the interesting stuff lies, right?
And Mark Monroe is joining us. He's an award-winning filmmaker and documentarian. The HBO docuseries is on HBO. July 24th, parts 1 and 2 are going to debut at 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. Then the final 2 parts will debut on July 25th. All 4 parts will be available to stream on Max on July 24th at 9 p.m. So 4-part series. It's called Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. You mentioned you want to, present to the audience, like, what are you supposed to do with Pete Rose, right? This great baseball career, this very checkered life off of baseball, not just with the gambling, the accusations that he was in a relationship with a very young girl. You know, what do you want the audience to take away? Are we going to feel any sympathy for Pete Rose? Are we going to feel that he's more of a monster? Like, what do you think the audience will take away?
I'm not trying, and I think if you watch the documentary, you'll see I'm not defending Pete Rose. It's a warts and all look. I was with him on several occasions, literally standing a few feet away, my crew right there, when he was confronted with these allegations, not just the one that you brought up, and several. So there are several that you can bring up when you talk about Pete Rose. And then when we started this whole thing, the very first thing I did with Pete, I had a Zoom. It was COVID was kind of raging at the time. It's been going on for some time, this project. And the first thing I said was, in order for us to go forward, I need to be able to ask you anything that I want to ask you. And he said, you can ask me anything you want to ask me. Like, I will answer. And for the most part, he did. He does have a very... Again, if anyone, if either of you have ever been in contact with Pete Rose or talked to him, he has a very aggressive way of defending himself, I would say. And so on any given day, depending on, the day, I got different answers. And I spent several years talking to him, periodically while filming it. So, as far as what you should take away from it, I think that's what I'm trying to get at. What should we do with these guys?
Right.
A lot of people may take away from it that that he does not belong in the Hall of Fame and we should move on in our lives. And I think that's fine. I think I just wanted to try to, because he was the face of baseball. He represented so much for a certain time in sports that I don't think he doesn't deserve to at least be looked at, right? To at least to understand what his life is today. That's what I was trying to do.
Mark, my first job in sports was at an outfit called Sports Fan Radio. I don't know if you know this, and the marquee ticket for Sports Fan Radio, syndicated radio network, was Pete Rose's radio show. He was good and popular. What happens to his career if he doesn't get in trouble? Like, is he one of the great managers of all time? Is he one of the great broadcasters of all time? Where would it have gone otherwise?
Well, I mean, I did ask this to several people. One of the prominent people we talked to is Al Michaels. Al was worked for the Reds calling games. He was a little bit younger than Pete, but he was ball player age, right? So he's hanging out with the Reds right at the inception, kind of the Big Red Machine. And Al said, he would go to dinner with Pete and spend hours, and he really credited Pete with giving him his learning curve of the game, how the game is played, at least how it was played at that time. And Al was a massive baseball fan. He told me that he felt that Pete, had a deep well of knowledge about baseball, and he believed that he would have been managing still today, probably. Like he had that competitive drive, but also know-how in terms of how to get the best out of players, different personalities. He felt that was on display when he was in Cincinnati. So who knows where he would be? I think that's a great question and a great question to contemplate as you're watching the series. What could have his life been? Certainly, it could have been a life in which we're not talking about him today. There are a lot of Hall of Famers who've had great careers and great lives and great post-baseball lives. We don't talk about them, that much. Pete dominates a lot of the conversation, even today, outside of baseball.
I wonder, though, if he the kind of guy who would have self-destructed in any way? If it wasn't the gambling or something else, is he just that type of person who would have found the pothole wherever it may have been? I'm not sure. Mark Monroe is here with us. He's an award-winning filmmaker and documentarian. He has a new docuseries. He's the director. It's called Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. You're right. Pete is still fascinating to this day. Parts 1 and 2, July 24th at 9 and 10 p.m. on HBO. Parts 3 and 4 the next day, July 25th. All 4 parts available to stream on HBO Max, or just Max now, July 24th at 9 p.m. Can we fan out a little, Mark? Because we're big fans of your work, and it's actually really fortuitous that we would have you on now, because Perloff and I have set out on the very painstaking task to determine what is the greatest sitcom of all time. And you happen to have done a documentary about Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. I mean, this is just like fate that we get to talk to you today. I Love Lucy is a 2 seed in the Seinfeld region of our sitcom bracket, 64 sitcoms, just like the NCAA tournament. And it is advanced to the second round. We're expecting big things. Can you tell us that I Love Lucy is going up against the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the third round of this tournament. So it's heavy hitters now with the sitcom bracket. What can you tell us about I Love Lucy and about that sitcom? Why should it win this bracket if you think it should win the bracket?
Well, Lucille Ball was a genius, if you ask me, and living in a time when her particular genius was not recognized by a lot of people. She was a pioneer beyond pioneers, and I don't think. I think it's easy to look at the sitcom and go, "Isn't that fun? Isn't that great?" But when you think of how much of the world was stacked against her having any success whatsoever, that's the kind of thing that gets me going. And in making that film and working with Amy Poehler on that film and the team at Imagine, I can't tell you how much fun we had just watching the episodes. It was. It's hard to get work done when you just keep going, well, I'll just watch one more because it might have a key kind of aspect to it or a line I'm looking for we could use in the scene. And you kind of, you get sucked into being, if you were me, 6, 7, 8 years old in front of the old television set, just after school, just clicking and watching and wanting to watch more I Love Lucy. I can't knock Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm not here to take anyone down, but I would be voting for I Love Lucy.
Okay. I also want to fan out. Your resume is incredible. 2 Oscars, but the one that jumped out to me, and I talk about the show all the time, that you wrote on Tales from the Tour Bus, the Mike Judge show, which was about mostly country musicians. The George Jones Tales from the Tour Bus is a seminal, and Tammy Wynette. I tell people about this hour long all the time, and it reminds me a little of Pete Rose. They have similar hair, by the way. But George Jones, if anyone has to see that, did that really happen? It's about this country music star who basically would drive a tractor 10 miles to get a bottle of whiskey. It is the most incredible story. Am I right, Mark?
You are absolutely right. And look, I think George Jones and Pete Rose are cut from the same cloth, and certainly from the same moment in time. And not to get too serious, but you were Maggie, you were saying earlier that you know maybe Pete Rose would have found the pothole. I guarantee you he would have found the pothole. But I think these guys lived in a time where they didn't really care about the potholes. Like they were powerful men at the top of the societal structure here, and they felt like they were well within their boundaries of doing whatever they wanted to, and that included, you know, unfortunately, crossing over the line of the law sometimes, and sometimes, you know, taking your lawnmower down the street to the whiskey store and, you know, causing a traffic jam and, you know, getting in a gunfight with your friend. Like that's just who these guys were. Tales from the Tour Bus, though, that was an unbelievable. I wish it was still going on today. And all of it is true. I got to tell you, we made the thing. We made Tales from the Tour Bus like you would make a doc, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just found the people who were living in that kind of environment, who knew, say, George Jones. We found people who worked with him, who played music with him, and we interviewed them and we asked them to tell their stories. And we, you know, took those stories, and then if you closed your eyes, you know, we would edit it together without any visuals whatsoever, and it was kind of serious, you know, sometimes. But you put the animation over the top of it and kind of illustrate some of these stories. It's outrageous. I wish we were still doing it today, to be honest with you.
Well, if they have a Johnny Cash movie and an Elvis Presley movie, you should write the fiction. I mean, you got to make the George Jones movie, and I want to credit. Like that'll be the greatest, and Tammy Wynette too. That'll be the greatest movie ever. But those were great. And Icarus, by the way, Maggie and I talked about, that is a real seminal sports documentary in my mind.
Well, I'm thinking, you know, we talked about what fortuitous timing this is to talk with you. Icarus is obviously a documentary that ends up uncovering like the largest systematic doping scandal in the history of sports, the Russian doping scandal. And, you know, I'm curious, Mark, when you watch the Olympics, do you feel like you're watching clean athletes? I mean, you know a lot now about that world.
Well, again, I kind of dive into these stories and get into the characters of this world, but I have to be honest, I don't watch a lot of Olympics. I you know, that has jaded me beyond jaded. I look at what's possible today on the performance enhancement stage, and I think things happen fast, things that we don't even know about. I'm certain of it in talking to Gregory. And Icarus, you know, again, I was mentioning at the top how some of the greatest television is about these complicated characters, and they're all living a double life. And Pete is very similar. And that's the one part that I really try to get right on Pete. He spent so many years living a lie. Gregory lived a lie to try to save his life, right? He orchestrated, you know, the doping program for Russia while not being able to speak about it to most of the world, right? Pete gambled on baseball, gambled on a lot of things, while literally, you know, while being the face of baseball, while being marched out there to promote the sport. He's living a double life, right? And I think, you know, you look at, not to conflate or compare him to these fictional characters, but Tony Soprano is living a double life. Walter White is living a double life, right? Barry is living a double life. That's what makes it fascinating, right? It's like and you look at those shows and there's a part of us that loves those guys, right? That's why we're watching. We have this soft part, and then the creators go, oh, but look, he's going to do this bad thing. You still love him? I think that's the complication of these kinds of stories.
It's a perfect place to leave it. Mark Monroe, thank you so much. We took up a lot of your time, but we're fans of you. Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose, again, July 24th and 25th on HBO, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and it's all streaming on Max. Thank you again. We appreciate it, and continued success.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Hopefully do it again.
Oh, the 70s and 80s fashions in this Charlie Hustle documentary are going to be fantastic, Maggie.
The hair.
Alone, the hair is actually, just in the trailer, Pete Rose's hair odyssey is amazing.
I'm sure. All right. Well, we took a lot of time there, so we didn't really get to do full justice on the AFC East today on the breakdown. So
Bills win. I'll do it for you.
And I hope so. Talking to Jeff Fisher today about the Music City Miracle put me in some type of weird headspace. Thank you to Manny Rodriguez. Thank you to Pete Bellotti. Thank you to Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan. Thank you also to EJ Stewart, who is working behind the scenes, even though he can't be here to help us out. Okay. Thank you all, Weedos coffee drinkers. You know who you are. See you tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break.